So, co-host or not, there is no mercy on the Crucible, and if you suck, you just get your ass whipped. That's just the way that it operates. But anyhow, 7 minutes on the clock for both of you gentlemen for your opening statement. Um, Zen, I'm going to set the clock right now. 1 second here. Go ahead when you're ready.
Okay, so yeah, I am pro-life, anti-abortion. Essentially, the position is that that is a human life, a human person in the womb. To kill that would be murder. Um, so to justify, why that's a human, why that is a person, essentially, it's that it meets all of the scientific criteria for what a life is, which is, being made of cells, DNA, having homeostasis, metabolic processes, growing, changing, reproducing, and reacting to stimuli. And what establishes it as a human person is that it possesses the DNA of a human being that is, distinguished from the mother and the father, and actually possesses the chromosomes of both the mother and the father. So that's what we're talking about when we say human being, from, my perspective. It's a living thing that is a human, that is genetically distinct, possesses chromosomes of both the mother and the father. And
That's
that
my
occurs at
cat,
the
by
moment
the
of
way.
conception.
Sorry to...
Oh, that occurs at the moment of conception. And so from that, any point after that would be to kill a human being, which is to commit a murder. And some people I've seen, so that's essentially my argument. And I do want to kind of touch on what I'm interpreting Vegan Gain's argument to be. But some people I've seen have thought it's kind of like funny or ironic that it's like, well, he's a vegan, he values animal life, but then he's okay with killing unborn humans. And on the surface, that does sound like funny or like ironic, contradictory. I don't know. It does sound funny, but to be good faith and not just a hand wave, that it is actually consistent with the vegan worldview where they claim to value sentient life. So what they're going to say is essentially that it's, they'll grant that it's a human life, but it's not sentient, so they don't place any moral consideration on it as a person per se. So, and if I'm getting it right, I'll let Vegan Gains clarify if it is wrong. But essentially, they say I value sentience and potential sentience for that which has already achieved sentience. So, if a fetus has not yet achieved sentience, then there's nothing wrong with killing it. If it has already achieved the sentience, then it would be wrong to kill it or to end its sentient experience. And that's essentially their argument in a nutshell. My line of attack is going to just, it's going to be multiple angles, but first and foremost, what do you mean by sentience? What is sentience? How do you distinguish it from simple reactivity? What is the basis for invoking sentience, asserting sentience as some ontological state of being? Because as far as I know, there's not really any scientific consensus on it. You'll get a lot of different answers if you ask people what sentience is, what the conscious experience actually entails, and ultimately, again, how do you distinguish that from just a reactivity? Like, how do you distinguish a baby screaming from, a plant giving off spores or whatever, or, an ant running from sunlight under the magnifying glass? How are you going to say one is sentient and one is not? There's not really any basis for that other than, I guess, your preferences for what you interpret sentience to be. But it's going to be really hard to make an argument based on your preferences because you're not going to have an ought for why I should agree with your preferences. Why ought we value your preference of sentience over the existence of a life, for example? So there, it's kind of the is to ought gap. Even if I do grant you what sentience is, why ought I even value it in the first place? So that's generally going to be the line of attack. And I think it's important to note that it is a philosophical debate, but we are, again, appealing to science to some degree or another. Both of us are. When I invoke life and human life at conception, I at the very least, have an overwhelming scientific consensus on my side. And I do have sources and studies to back it up, but essentially it's like 95% of biologists agree that it's a human life at conception, and there's no consensus whatsoever as to what sentience is or when it even begins. So there's not really any basis to make the argument that killing a sentient life is wrong, because what is sentience? So that's I think I'll wrap it up there. And I want to one other thing. When we get into these, like, why ought I value things, that's obviously going to be a meta-ethical discussion, which I'm happy to get into. But I do want to attempt to keep it on a normative level for as long as we can until we're forced to go to meta-ethics, which again is fine. But yeah, that's about it.
All right, thank you for that opening. I'm going to reset the timer. Go ahead. Vegan Gains when ready.
All right, so my position isn't necessarily either pro-life or pro-choice. Like you mentioned, I'm pro-sentience. I do believe life begins at conception, but I don't believe meaningful life begins at conception. For one thing, immediately after conception, the zygote that is created by the fusion of a male and female gamete does not contain a unique genetic code. There are two distinct nuclei that merely contain a separate genetic code from the mother and a separate genetic code from the father. It isn't until after a process called syngamy does the zygote then possess its own unique genome, where genetic information for both the mother and the father combine to create a distinctly unique organism with its own genetic code. Secondly, sentience certainly does not arise immediately after conception or even after syngamy. In all likelihood, sentience arises weeks after conception, perhaps the earliest time frame being around 8 weeks, gestation, or perhaps longer. If we only place value on a zygote or fetus having unique human genetic code and not on its sentience, I believe that position is in fact anti-pro-life, as this can lead to situations where we put mothers at unnecessary risk of disease or death, also that we can save a gross cancerous collection of cells which just so happens to contain living human tissue. And I have an example of a photo of a hydatidiform mole pregnancy, which I believe, unless he's changed his position substantially, Zen Shapiro would be in favor of trying to preserve this life. Can I share my screen? Okay, let me see if I can share screen.
Yeah, just hit present at the bottom there.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. There's my screen. So this is a mole pregnancy. This is in fact living human tissue. So this is partly a human fetus that is alive, or at least was once living. So according to Zen Shapiro, if the only thing we value is, unique human genetic material that happens to be living, this is something that we have to save. And again, it's worth risking the life of a mother to save this for at least as long as we can. So I think any reasonable person would agree that's just insane.
All right.
So there you go.
Is that it?
Is that your?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay, gotcha. So our openings are done. Ladies and gentlemen, before I open up the floor, remember that we will be taking callers tonight and, of course, super chats. I'll give kind of the high sign when we're ready to start letting callers in. And, you adhere to the mods. They'll kind of direct you if you want to call in either to ask Vegan Gains or Zen Shapiro a question. The lines will be open for that. So with that, make sure that you send in a lot of super chats because I need a new computer. So I'm kidding. Anyway, floor is open. Go ahead, guys.
Okay, so where do you want to go first, syngamy or the molar pregnancy? Because I'm ready for both.
Yeah, so I want clarification. Do you believe there are multiple criteria for a human life after conception to be valuable, which is, unique genetic code?
Yeah, being genetically distinct and I don't know if maybe you weren't listening, but possessing the chromosomes of both the mother and the father. Did you hear that part?
Right. So if you're going to have that aspect of it, unique genetic code, again, a zygote immediately after conception doesn't have unique genetic code.
Yeah. So being a cell that possesses the chromosomes of both the mother and the father, that's what I mean when I'm invoking distinct genetic code.
Okay, so you should just remove the stipulation of distinct because it's not distinct.
Well, that's what I mean. I'm clarifying.
Right. Okay.
So at conception, that's what's occurring, right?
Okay. So at conception, you don't care if it's actually unique genetic code. You just care if the single cell has...
I'm saying when I say unique or distinct genetic code, I'm saying it's a single cell that possesses the DNA and the chromosomes of both the mother and the father.
Okay. So it's not necessarily unique. It's just that the single cell possesses
Well,
both the
when I
DNA
say
of the mother and
unique,
father.
I mean like distinct. It's genetically distinct from the mother and genetically distinct from the father. It's
Well, it's
both
not.
of them combined. Well, actually,
it's
it
not
is,
both
'cause
of
it's a
them
single
combined.
cell with the DNA of both.
Well, it's not both of them combined. It's a single cell with both DNA.
I mean, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a single cell that is not just the mother's DNA or not just the father's DNA. It is both and possesses the chromosomes of both.
Right, but it's not a mix of the two. It's not until syngamy
Okay, so
occurs.
when you have 23 chromosomes of the father and 23 chromosomes of the mother, and they come together in a single cell,
they
that's what I
aren't
mean.
coming
That's a
together in a
mix.
single cell until syngamy occurs.
Okay, whether it's the syngamy thing, I mean, I can tell who you've been talking with, and I know your crew.
Well, I didn't talk to him. I just saw your debate.
Yeah, it's fine, but it's the steel man of the whole syngamy thing is, and anybody in the audience can look this up if you're interested. Basically, syngamy and fertilization are basically synonymous terms, and they're both essential processes of the
They're actually
conception.
not. They're not synonymous terms.
Yeah, you can say that they're not, but I mean, anybody can look it up and you'll see that they are.
They're not synonymous terms. You can have fertilization without syngamy.
So it doesn't matter, though. It doesn't matter.
Okay, well, I'm just asking.
Either way, I'm going to say, either way, whether it's syngamy or fertilization, I'm going to say that when it's a unique genetic code, when it's an individuated organism based on its DNA and based on its chromosomes of both the mother and the father, that's what we're calling a person. That's what I'm calling a person. And to kill that is murder. Doesn't matter if you're saying fertilization or syngamy. It doesn't matter.
Okay. Again, fertilization is not the same thing as syngamy. So, do you only care about fertilization?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. You only care about fertilization. You don't care about unique genetic code.
And in fact, if you go back in my opening statement, I didn't even use the term fertilization because I know that these semantics can get touchy. But what matters is that it is a genetically distinct organism based on having the chromosomes of the mother and the father in a single cell. That's what I mean. So can you
and it doesn't matter if syngamy occurs. You only care about fertilization.
I don't care what we're calling it. I'm saying that's the criteria that I'm valuing.
Okay, well,
so that's what would
fertilization and syngamy are two different things. I just want you to answer yes or no.
You can keep saying that, and I'm going to. I just want you to. It doesn't actually matter. It doesn't matter.
Well, I just want you to answer yes or no. It's a simple question. Do you or do you not care about syngamy? Do you only care about fertilization?
I'm telling you that they're basically synonymous terms, and they're both part of the process of conception.
They're not. Fertilization is separate from syngamy because you can have fertilization without syngamy. You can
you can't have syngamy without fertilization. They're
no,
both
you
part
can.
Of the same
no,
process.
They're not. Normally, syngamy does occur about 24 hours after fertilization, but you can have a situation.
The whole process of conception, it's a varying process. But what I'm telling you is what matters is that when the sperm cell and the egg cell come together, create a new single cell that is possessing the mother's chromosomes and the father's chromosomes. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't. You can laugh. You can snap and laugh.
It's literally a yes or no question, and it seems like it doesn't even matter to you. So I don't know why you're dodging.
Yes, because I'm telling you, I don't want to have this semantics debate. I want to get.
Then don't just answer yes or no. It doesn't even sound like you particularly care.
I don't think it matters to answer yes or no, given because you're going to get conflicting responses online.
No.
You
don't find any conflicting responses.
Syngamy is
a separate phenomena.
Syngamy is versus fertilization. Everybody will say that they're synonymous. They're part of the same process.
There's so much overlap. We're not able to. The audience isn't able to understand what's going on. So we're going to start with vegan gains. Go ahead.
Sure. So fertilization is separate from syngamy. You can have a male gamete fertilize an egg. It's just that there are two distinct nuclei within that zygote that's created.
And it's a single cell, right?
So one of the nuclei
is... It's a single cell, right?
Yeah, it's a single cell. One of the nuclei is from the father. One of the nuclei is from the mother. I'm asking you, if syngamy does not occur, do you only care about fertilization?
I care about when it becomes a single cell that possesses the mother's chromosomes and the father's chromosomes.
So you don't care about syngamy. You can have fertilization. That's a human life. Okay.
I care about when it becomes a single cell that has the mother's chromosomes and the father's chromosomes, and that's what I mean when I say genetically distinct. I don't care about syngamy. Okay, so we can move on, right?
Okay, you don't care about syngamy.
Correct.
So if we had a mass of cells that you would call human life, because they are human cells, but you have a cell line that ends up developing that only contains the father's DNA, and you have a cell line that's developing that contains the mother's DNA. You are having fertilization. You are having a metabolic process where cells divide and grow. Do you believe that if a mother is in a situation where there is this mass of cells that are growing,
Are you talking about
that mass of cells has to be protected?
Are you talking about the molar pregnancy?
No, that's not a molar pregnancy. That's a different thing.
Yes, it is a molar pregnancy, dude.
That's not a molar pregnancy. Molar pregnancy is when the sperm doesn't embed itself properly inside the egg, and then you end up getting like cancerous growths. That's a separate.
Okay, so you don't know what you're talking about then, because what you just showed on screen for your opening statement, the layman term for that is molar pregnancy. I'm very familiar.
I'm pretty sure those are two separate phenomena, but either way.
No, they're not. Okay, so what is the thing that it's called a hypotatiformal? What is it called exactly?
Yeah, it's hydatitiformal mole pregnancy.
Hydatitiform molar pregnancy.
Hydatitiform mole pregnancy. Yeah.
Molar pregnancy. So
Yeah.
You're already showing that you didn't actually do your research for this.
I'm pretty sure those are two distinct phenomena, but it doesn't really matter. Do you think we should?
You can say you're pretty sure, but you would be wrong. And,
okay, great. Do you think we should save a clump of cells?
Yeah, I would also encourage everybody in the audience to look up hydatitiform mole and molar pregnancy. You'll find that they are the same things. It's just a semantics game, but molar pregnancy is like the layman term for this. And when you say that it possesses the mother and the father's chromosomes, maybe you don't know that it actually doesn't. A full molar pregnancy only possesses the father's chromosomes, so that actually wouldn't meet the criteria for person that I gave.
Actually, it does. It contains both the mother and the father chromosomes.
Nope. A full molar pregnancy only possesses the father's chromosomes, and it fills an empty egg. But a partial molar pregnancy does possess both, and there is fetal development along with the tumorous mass, whatever it is. And at that point, you actually would remain on the side of caution and preserve that, because there's a potential for the human life to actually survive and sustain itself. So,
and again, this is what you're talking about. I
think that's a very extreme version of it, and I think that would be a full molar pregnancy, so that wouldn't actually meet the criteria.
I'm pretty sure this isn't a full molar pregnancy because there is a fetus in here.
Let me finish real quick. It's also important to distinguish the so-called exception to the. Can we get this off screen, please? Can we please? Sure. Okay. So
that's what you're talking about.
No, yeah, I know. We've all seen it already. People can go back and look if they want. But it's important to distinguish the so-called exception to the pro-life position. It's more so just a caveat that if the mother's life is in danger due to the pregnancy, then it's okay to terminate said pregnancy. And the intent is not to murder the child. The intent is to save the. Hang on. Let me finish what I'm saying. The intent is actually to save the mother's life or save her, her wellness, whatever it may be. And these molar pregnancies, the natural process for them actually is to be miscarried. Typically the process is that they get miscarried within like a month or no, maybe like the first trimester or whatnot. If they do not, then they run the risk of developing some severe cancer within the womb of the mother and would threaten her life. And at which point we're vindicated. So this molar pregnancy thing doesn't work.
All pregnancies run the risk of death. In the U.S., I believe it's 19 per 100,000 births. Globally, it's over 200.
That's incredibly rare. Yeah.
And I think the highest is in some countries in Africa, like 400. If we have a situation where there's a molar pregnancy, and we can calculate within reasonable certainty that if we just allow that mass of cells, which includes living human tissue, to go on living inside the womb, and doing so would basically give the mother the same level or less risk than a typical pregnancy, would you be in favor of that?
You mean the thing that we've never seen before ever?
Yeah. Would you be in favor of that?
So basically what he's saying is that if we have a molar pregnancy that doesn't get miscarried and then just sits in the mother's womb for like some perpetual period of time and doesn't threaten the life of the mother, would it be justified to
Well, I'm not saying it doesn't threaten the
terminate?
mother, but yeah, there are circumstances in the real world where the risk would be about the same as just having a normal birth, especially if you consider globally. Risk of birth
Wait, you're
is
saying that
risk of
you're
death of
saying
birth.
that you're saying that if that a molar pregnancy that doesn't get miscarried, the risk of death is similar to a regular birth? That's just not the case though. The molar
There
pregnancies
certainly are
already are.
cases.
No, literally they're not. That's why they
There
have to
certainly are
remove them
cases.
after a certain period of time because
Yeah.
they become a threat to
Okay.
the mother's
Sure.
life.
After a certain period
And
of
we can
time,
look
but
at
you're in favor of again trying to extend the life of that mass, correct?
Well, it would depend if there is viable fetal tissue present that is still developing, or
What do you
if it's
mean
a
viable
full.
fetal tissue?
Well, if it again viable meaning it's still sustaining itself and reproducing as a fetus normally does, and then developing a heartbeat, things like that. Those are just indicators. There's no one thing, but like we hang on. If we are looking at indicators that it is continuing to develop as a fetus does, and there's also this mass, then we're going to do what we can to preserve the fetus, and hopefully birth it as a normal child. But if it's a full molar pregnancy where there's no fetal tissue or no chromosomes of the mother, so it's just like fertilized an empty egg, then that would not meet the criteria for person that I invoked, and it would be permissible to remove that.
Okay, so there's a few things going on. For one, you keep modifying the hypothetical that I propose and not answering the question. And two, you're adding like an additional stipulation to what human life is.
I'm literally
where the fetus has to develop properly, quote unquote. So if the fetus was developing improperly, quote unquote, you'd be in favor of abortion.
If the fetal tissue is showing indicators of like continual development, like again, the first indicator would be like a heartbeat, brain development, organs, things like that. Then that would be an indicator that there's a viable life, a viable person still in the womb that we would want to preserve. But in which case we would err on the side of caution and try to preserve it. If it starts to threaten the mother, we got to do what we got to do. Is what it is, and it's sad. But again, that's not what we're talking about when we say abortion and murder. And then the full molar pregnancy, the only potential that has is to grow as not the criteria for a person that I invoked, and only threaten the life of the mother. So we can actually just get rid of that as soon as we detect it.
Okay, so again, you're just not answering my hypothetical. The hypothetical I gave you was assuming there's a partial molar pregnancy where if we let it gestate for a longer period of time to the point where again, birthing it would assume the same amount of risk as a typical pregnancy. Would you be in favor of preserving that partial molar pregnancy, assuming it has living human tissue in it?
If the partial molar pregnancy is showing that there is a fetus continually developing and that can be preserved, then yes, we would want to preserve that. But if we're seeing that it's not,
you're modifying the hypothetical.
Dude, I literally just answered your hypothetical. You said if there is a partial molar pregnancy that is no greater risk than any other pregnancy, like the 17 in 100,000 or whatever risk.
You're modifying the hypothetical.
Let me finish. I'm recreating your hypothetical as you stated it. You said if there is a partial molar pregnancy that is running the same risk as any other pregnancy, so no greater risk for death of the mother, would we want to preserve that? And the answer is yes, because there is a potentially viable fetus still growing in there. That's a human person that we would not want to kill. But
okay,
if there is not a viable fetus growing in there, then that's not going to meet the criteria that I invoked. So it's fine.
Again, in the hypothetical, it's assumed like, the fetus isn't going to obtain sentience. So like, let's say it's developing without a brain. Would you be in favor of, again, attempting to carry it to term, assuming
that would be something that would indicate that it's not developing, that it's not progressing and is dying.
No, you can have a fetus that develops without a brain. That's actually not terribly uncommon.
And again, like I said, if there are
anencephaly and hydranencephaly.
So we can look at the picture that you shared. We don't have to bring it up again, but it's like the emotional appeal of like, oh my God, look at this thing that Zen is calling a person that we need to preserve. Oh, tumor lives matter. Oh, but no, it's the thing is you can see in that one there's no viable fetal tissue in that picture, and that's an extreme.
There is fetal
case.
tissue.
No, not I said viable. Fetal
What
tissue.
is viable?
What
define
again,
viable?
Okay, so I'm going to finish what I was saying, that there's no viable fetal tissue in that. And it's ultimately just an extreme case that you're looking for shock value on, to find a gotcha or something. But there isn't one, because I've given you a clear criteria, a clear definition.
No, you
and
haven't.
It would depend on
You've
whether,
actually added additional stipulations.
It would depend on whether the criteria are met or not, whether we're going to preserve the life or not.
Okay, so you started off agreeing that for something to be considered a human life, it has to have, living human tissue, which, has like, a human genetic code, and it has to have unique genetic code containing genetic code from both the mother and the father.
Chromosomes from the mother and the father, yeah.
Now you're adding an additional stipulation where the fetus has to be viable. And what do you mean by that? Define what a viable fetus is, and maybe give an example of an unviable fetus.
I'm just talking about indicators that we would look for that it's continuing to develop. That's all I mean when I say viable. I think the definition of viable on its face is far too vague to.
Can you give me an example of a non-viable fetus?
Yeah. So things that we would look for is like if we're 8 to 10 weeks into the pregnancy and there's no heartbeat, that would just simply be an indicator that the fetus is not developing properly. And
8 weeks?
And has probably died in the womb.
Sorry, did you say 8 weeks?
And I said if we do an ultrasound at roughly 8 to 10 weeks or 7 weeks, whenever you do your first ultrasound.
There's no heartbeat at 8 to 10 weeks.
Whenever you, okay, you're wrong.
No, there isn't.
Yeah, you're wrong.
No,
you don't know
there
what
isn't.
you're talking about. Again,
no, there isn't. It's from the the sound is made by the ultrasound
typically develops
machine.
at around 5 to 7 weeks, 5 on the absolute earliest, 7 to 8 or whatever.
It's created by the ultrasound machine. There's no actual heartbeat. It's just electrical signals.
When you go to your first ultrasound and you see that will eventually be the heart. And you see, you can keep interrupting, but it doesn't make you any more right. When you go to your first ultrasound and you find that there's no electronic pulsates being indicated by the ultrasound machine.
So then we're not talking about a heartbeat.
That we're classifying as a heartbeat.
That's not a heartbeat.
That would give us dude, can you stop interrupting?
Okay, well, you can't keep confusing everybody and conflating terms. There's no heartbeat. It's just electrical signals that are interpreted by the ultrasound.
All right, hang on. We got to bring some semblance of order back into this. Okay, so Vegan Gains, restate specifically what it is that you want.
Wait, he was interrupting me. Why are you giving him
Okay, well, you know what? Just let him finish. I just wanted to clarify. There's no heartbeat at the gestational period. Well, I'll let you finish. I just wanted to clarify. There's no heartbeat in the gestational period you're talking about. It's electrical signals that are interpreted by an ultrasound machine as a beat. The sound is produced by the ultrasound machine. It's just an electrical signal in the area where the heart will eventually be.
So when we go into your first ultrasound, because you asked me, when you asked me what are some indicators that we're looking for, I said when you go into your first ultrasound appointment or whatever, and you do not see the pulsates from the ultrasound machine that would indicate a heartbeat or a developing heartbeat or whatever it is, that would show us that this fetus is not developing properly and has probably died, and at which point it would either miscarry or need to be removed surgically because it's not viable and it can only result in threat to the mother. And that's the same thing that would go on with the molar pregnancy.
Okay, what if the fetus is developing without a brain?
Well, I mean, I don't even know if we have the technology to necessarily detect that.
Well, we do.
But if it's maintaining a heartbeat and it's developing other organs and things like that, then these are continuing indicators that the fetus has the potential to remain viable, to remain alive, to remain living. So that would be still a living person.
Remain living till when?
A living person that we do not want to kill.
Remain living till when?
What do you mean living till when? How would I know?
Well, you're trying to produce a definition of viable. Like, okay, a fetus without electrical signals, around their heart. Okay, well, it might still be alive. Again, there might still be living tissue that's, replicating and shit. I don't know what you mean by, you're giving a really vague definition of viable. I just like to know what you mean exactly.
Yeah, again, I agree that the definition of viable itself is very vague and hard to go on. I'm using it as an indicator that the fetus is continuing to develop and continuing to sustain itself. When we look in an ultrasound and find that there is no heartbeat, that's usually a dead giveaway that the fetus has it is no longer viable and is no longer sustaining itself. So that's
How
what I'm
long?
saying. That's all I mean when I say viable. We don't need to again get caught up in these semantics that for some reason you love to play. I'm giving you a
Okay,
few more. I'll
well,
give you a few
how
more minutes
long?
to have this line of questioning, but at some point I do need to
Yeah,
explore your
so
world.
how long would you let okay, so for you to be interested in preserving this fetal life, how long would the fetus have to be viable for?
Yeah, as
Because
long
I
as it
mean, you
continues
can
to develop, as long as it continues to sustain itself.
as
What do you
long as
mean?
it continues to sustain itself.
Yeah, within
So
obviously with the help of the mother, but you know what I mean.
okay, so then you would be interested in keeping a partial molar pregnancy alive for as long as it can still grow.
Yeah, assuming the the fetal tissue is continuing to develop, then that's still a human person in the womb. If the fetal tissue ceases to sustain itself, which again there are indicators of. I don't think there's any hard line definition to go on, but there's indicators such as a heartbeat and such as just organ development and whatnot that would point to the fetus no longer being viable, no longer being able to survive, and at which
Okay,
point
can you
there's no reason to keep it.
share the screen again, please?
Are we gonna look at your shock value photo again?
It's not. I don't know why this is shocking. Do you eat
Everybody's
meat?
already
Have you
seen
ever
it,
made a
dude.
steak? Like this isn't particularly shocking.
Everybody's
Like look
already
at the
seen
ground
this,
beef
dude.
you
No, you're
cook.
just looking for an
Yeah,
emotional
look at the
appeal.
ground. This isn't particularly shocking. If you look at the ground beef you cook, this isn't much different. So again, this
No, this
does
is much
contain
different, dude.
fetal. This does
Especially
contain
knowing
fetal
that this is
tissue.
human, especially knowing that this came from a human. Yeah, it's much different.
This is fetal tissue that was developing. It's just that this molar pregnancy was obviously
and then I would
aborted.
imagine that they looked through an ultrasound or some other detection system and found that there was no heartbeat
Right,
and there was
so-
no continued continued fetal
Well,
development.
let's assume
then-
let's assume there was a heartbeat and the fetus continued to develop. I don't even
Then we would
understand
preserve
why
it.
necessarily.
I don't understand what's your mental issue here.
I don't even understand.
If there is continued development and the heartbeat is remaining to pulsate, then we're preserving that because that's still a human being. That's still
Okay,
a human
well,
person.
is the heartbeat a necessary
It's not
component? Because again, you could, in theory,
Again,
you
I don't
could.
know if are your ears
Can
clogged
you?
or something?
Well,
Because I told
I'm asking you: is the
there's no
heartbeat a
one
necessary
thing-
component?
There's no one thing that we.
It doesn't have to
pointing
be one thing. I'm just asking
please let
you:
me
does a
finish
heartbeat
sentence?
have to be a
Can
necessary
you let me
component?
finish a sentence? Okay, so there's not one thing that we're pointing to determine that is a viable fetus, but I'm telling you, there are indicators that we look at, and the heartbeat is typically a dead giveaway. Once it has begun or has not begun after 7 or 8 weeks or whatever, those are indicators of whether it is a sustained and viable human life. If there's no heartbeat, then that's just an indicator, and then there's probably other indicators that I'm not aware of. That you're not
Well, I
aware
would
of, but-
imagine the best indicator would be an ultrasound showing growth of the fetal mass.
Yeah.
So
Continued
I'm
growth and continued
asking.
development.
So I'm asking if like a heartbeat is a necessary component to you considering a fetus viable, or is it part
No,
of?
I'm saying that's an indicator that it's remaining viable.
Okay, so the partial molar pregnancy photo that I showed you, that mass of cells, which includes fetal tissue, if that had no heart, but if you looked on ultrasound that the fetal mass is still replicating and growing, like the cells are dividing, and it still has metabolic activity, you would be in favor of preserving that life as long as you can.
Yeah. So if you look at it and there's no heartbeat, what I would probably say in that scenario is to give it some time and check again, like maybe in a few days or a week or whatnot. If there's still no heartbeat, then that's not that the human person is not going to be able to survive, and it's likely already.
Okay, so now it has to survive outside the womb.
Again, that's just.
Wait, this is totally different from what you were saying. So now a fetus has to survive outside the womb?
You've got this major problem with interrupting. Okay, so this is just a typical indicator that we look for once the heartbeat has already developed or not developed at 7 weeks. Like if we see that there's no heartbeat at all, obviously it's a miscarriage or whatever, or a molar pregnancy. Prior to that, there are criteria for life that we actually can't even detect on ultrasounds. Like that's done in like test tubes and whatnot. So like when we're talking about molar pregnancies, we have to be pragmatic here and discuss like, what do you do in that scenario? Well, you would probably wait after you see that there's no heartbeat, wait a few days or wait a week or whatever, go check again, do with another ultrasound. And if there's still no heartbeat, then it's either going to be miscarried or need to be removed, because at that point it only becomes a threat to the mother's life.
Okay, you literally just added another stipulation saying that the fetus has to survive outside the womb.
No, I didn't.
You literally mentioned that the fetus has
No, I
to
said
survive
it's either
outside
going to
the
have
womb.
to be removed.
No, you
That's
literally
all I said.
during your rant, you said it has to be able to survive outside the womb.
I
And
never
it
said
sounded
that.
like
You're hearing
you
things.
did.
Maybe you should lay off the soy.
Well,
Because it's making you hear things. I
soy.
didn't say that. Yes, soy jokes. Haha. So, dude, do you have any actual
Buddy,
actual critiques, like
I
internal
can
critiques that are
just crush
successful?
your head.
I doubt it.
Soy, really?
Yeah. Yeah, soy.
You doubt
I
it?
doubt it.
You want to set up a boxing match, dude?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, cool.
We'll set it up another time.
Okay, cool.
But
You literally did just mention that one of the criteria that you would look for in considering a fetus viable is whether or not it would survive once born.
no, I didn't say. I don't know where you heard.
You
me say
mentioned that. It
I
might have
said-
been a mistake, but you mentioned
No,
that.
I didn't. Okay, so what I said was if we can look and see that there's no sustained heartbeat, then that would be an indicator that the human person's life is not being sustained either, and at which point it would need to either be miscarried naturally or removed, because it can only be a threat to the mother's life at that point. There's no potential for continued development of the fetus, the life, the person, whatever you want to call it at that point. So,
Okay. So assuming, let's say, if this mass of cells from the molar pregnancy were to be able to just keep growing, if we put it in, like, I don't know, some type of vat or test tube, and like injected sugar and like minerals and nutrients into it, and it would keep growing, you would be in favor of forcing a mother to keep that mass of cells to term, assuming it
No, I've
had the
already
same
answered
risk.
this.
No, you haven't.
No, I've already
Assuming it had
answered
the
this.
same risk as a normal pregnancy.
No, I've already answered this.
No, you
I don't
haven't.
know why you keep. I
You
don't know why you
haven't.
keep asking the same question.
You haven't answered that.
Yes, I
So
have. I told
you
you
know,
that if we look and we see that there's no indications of the fetus continuing.
okay,
to
there you go,
sustain
changing the
itself,
hypothetical again. You're just dodging. I literally
well,
gave you a
because you're-
hypothetical
well, okay,
where the
so
mass
let
of
me ask you,
cells
in
keeps
this-
developing.
Yeah, the mass of cells. Is it sustaining a heartbeat? Are the organs developing? Are there indications of it continuing to develop as what we know to be a person?
Okay, totally different now.
I'm
Totally
just
different.
asking-
now it
I'm
has to
asking a
look like a
clarifying question,
person.
dude.
Now
It's
it
a-
has to look like a
I'm
person.
giving you. I'm asking what's called a clarifying question.
No, now the thing has to look like a
Well, you
person
can't- you
eventually
can't just
for you to
give me
save it.
one. You can't just give me. I never said that it has to look like a person.
You
I said,
literally
are
just said that.
Okay, then let me clarify what I said, since you won't clarify what you said. So when I said, are there indicators in this scenario that you're presenting? Are there indicators of continued development along the cycle or the sequence of fetal development in the womb? Are there indicators that it's continuing to develop like a normal pregnancy would, a non-molar pregnancy would, where the fetus is continuing to sustain itself? I would need to know that in order to answer your hypothetical fully. But if you're just going to say it's a molar
I
pregnancy,
literally
you're just going to say it's a partial molar pregnancy.
Yeah,
then
so
I don't have enough information.
I literally explained that in the hypothetical.
Yeah,
so
does
in
it-
this
okay, then let
hypothetical,
me
I
ask
can
the
go through it
clarifiers.
again. I can go through it
Let
again.
me ask the clarifiers that we can go through. Is it maintaining a heartbeat?
I don't see what that matters. You said as long
that's
as
what
there's
it matters to
development.
me. It matters to me in order to answer your question.
Okay, let's say no.
Well, then that's an indicator that it's not continuing to develop. Is it developing any other organs like brain, or liver?
Let's say
kidneys,
it's not
lungs, things like-
developing a brain, but it's developing liver, kidneys, other.
Yeah, I don't think that would actually occur where you could have no heartbeat but continue to develop.
Okay, well,
liver and
let's
kidneys,
say,
because
okay, well,
the
you know
heart
what,
is
I'll
literally
change it.
responsible for delivering blood
Okay,
and
well,
oxygen
I'll.
to the other organs of the body. So if
Okay,
there's no
fine.
heart,
I'll change the
then that wouldn't
hypothetical
happen.
so
That's
it,
not
it
gonna-
sounds
that's not
more
gonna work.
realistic.
What's
Let's
that?
say this. I'll change the hypothetical so it sounds more realistic for you.
Okay.
Let's say this molar pregnancy, the fetus was developing a heart, its organ systems, but no brain.
Well, then we're gonna try to preserve it and see that if a brain does develop and if it
Well, no,
continues
it doesn't.
to sustain itself.
Well,
So,
no,
okay,
let's say
well,
it doesn't.
Again, I don't believe that there would be a scenario
There
where you
is.
develop a heart. What? Let me.
There
finish.
is. It's called hydranencephaly.
Okay, how do you even know that there? How are you disagreeing with me when you don't?
It's
let me
a
finish?
condition called hydranencephaly. Babies can be born without a brain.
So okay, if there is a condition where there's a heart, the heart organs, everything's developing, but the brain is either severely malformed or not even present at all, and it's still developing as a person, then that's fine to preserve. Yeah.
Okay, so you'd be in favor again.
Assuming that's real. I haven't heard of this.
Well,
scenario,
Google it right now. You can look up hydranencephaly.
Unlike you, I'm charitable. I'll take your word that it is a condition. If that does develop as and get birthed as a person, then that's fine. Like, why would we kill that? Yeah, there's no reason to.
Right. So if there were a massive cells in a molar pregnancy
Are you
that ended up
seriously going to
developing
keep doing this stupid
that ended up developing a heart,
all right, so
kidneys,
we're now 50,
organ systems, no brain, no brain, you would force the mother to have that child.
Okay, so I've answered your hypothetical literally 5, 6.
Okay, well, just say yes or no. It's very quick, and then we can move on. It's very quick, and then we can move on.
What? No, it's not very quick because every time I answer it, you keep modifying.
Well, that's the last time. That if you answer honestly,
no gotcha,
yes or no, that's the last time I'll have to ask.
No, dude, you've already asked the same hypothetical.
Right. So if there was a molar pregnancy where the fetus develops all of its organ systems except a brain, you would be in favor of forcing the mother to take that pregnancy to term, assuming it had no greater risk.
I wouldn't call it forcing, but assuming that there is potential for that child to actually continue developing and be sustained, then absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so hydranencephaly is a different condition than what we're explaining. Normally,
well, I don't really care. So I
sure.
want. Okay, so listen, we're 50 minutes in.
So
listen.
Well,
listen
just to clarify, you'd be in favor of risking the mother dying in a 19 out of 100,000 chance to give birth to a disgusting clump of cells that doesn't have a brain, but it has other organ systems.
I don't think I said that. No, because when you say, okay, so you're invoking another condition on top of the molar pregnancy in order to modify
cancer. It's a glob of cancer cells mixed with human tissue. Yeah, it just happens to also have a heart, other organ systems, and no brain.
If the human tissue is continuing to sustain itself within the womb and develop, then we are preserving it, regardless of what condition it has.
Okay, so no legs, no arms, no brain, just heart, kidneys, liver.
Will you let me finish? Will you let me finish? And if there are indicators that it is continuing to sustain itself, such as organ development, heartbeat, things like growth of the fetal tissue itself, then that's how we know to sustain it. If those things cease, and there's no one indicator, but if those things cease to continue, then that's an indicator that the pregnancy is no longer viable, that the fetus is no longer viable, at which point we are justified in removing. So I've already answered all this. You're going to modify it again. I think I'm just going to reject that because we are 50 minutes into this debate. I haven't even gotten to explore your worldview at all because you just want to keep hitting me with these modified hypotheticals that aren't even actually grounded in reality. So I want to know this. What is sentience?
Okay, two things first.
What is sentience?
Two things first.
No, I don't care.
Okay, you know what? I just want one clarifying question.
No, I don't. No, I want you to tell me what sentience is.
No, I want one clarifying question. So you would force a mother to carry a child to term and risk a 19 out of 100,000 chance of death to give birth to a child that has no brain.
What is sentience?
Would you force a mother to give birth to a child and have a 19 out of 100,000 chance of dying to give birth to a child with no brain?
What is sentience?
Yes or no? Yes or no, and then I'll answer your question.
I've already answered
yes or no, and then I'll answer your question.
I've already answered it.
Yes or no, you didn't. Yes or no, and then I'll answer your question. Yes or no, and then I'll answer your question. No, you didn't. It's yes or no. I will answer your question if you just say yes or no.
It's not a yes or no question.
It is a yes or no question. It is a yes or no question.
and you keep modifying.
It
'cause you're not
is a
getting what
yes
you
or
want
no
because it's
question.
not
You would
there.
risk a
Now
mother
tell me,
dying to give birth
what
to
is
a
sentience?
baby
Hey,
without a brain, yes or no?
Dude, what is sentience? Can you tell
Would
me? What
you
is sentience?
risk a mother dying to give birth to a baby who has no brain, yes or no?
I've already answered your
You
question.
did not. Would
If
you
it's
risk
if
a mother
again,
dying to
I've
give
already
birth to a
clarified
baby
this
with
too,
no
dude.
brain, yes
If
or no?
it's
We can't
threatening,
look.
if
We can't stay on this.
Make him
for-
answer the
for
question.
rest
Just
of the,
yes
for the
or
rest
no,
of the
and then I'll
debate.
answer whatever question he wants,
if
and
it's
we
if
can
it's
go down the whole
threatening,
line of
So,
questioning.
so from my perspective, if you're asking for a yes or no qualified question, a person doesn't have to answer it yes or no.
It is a yes or no question.
Maybe
It's not,
it's
though.
presented as a yes or no question, but I can't force a person to answer yes or no. They can answer the question how
What's
they see fit.
what's the issue with
So-
answering yes or no?
well,
Let's
because there are
say the
clarifiers
baby
that must
will
be made.
let's
There are
say the
clarifiers
baby
that
will
must be made.
survive for a while after giving birth, but it has no brain. Would you force a mother to risk dying in the pregnancy to give birth to a baby with no brain?
I've already clarified this too. If the mother's life is in danger,
No,
then
well,
obviously,
every
if you let
pregnancy
me finish
carries
my,
risk.
you
Every
keep asking me
pregnancy
questions.
carries
When I
risk.
start to answer,
I
you cut me
literally
off.
stipulated
Stop
this in the hypothetical.
Stop
19
interrupting
out of
me, dude.
100,000
You can't
chance.
control yourself, dude. It's
I
the soy
literally
ray. It's the soy
stipulated this
ray.
in the hypothetical.
Listen, dude,
19 in
listen.
100,000 chance.
If the mother's life is in danger, if it's legitimately
Every pregnancy is danger.
If the living is a threat to your life. Everything you do is a threat to your life. Obviously, there's going to be some
19 out of 100,000
obviously,
chance. Would you take that chance for a mother to give birth to a baby?
I've already answered this. If it's a sustainable, if the life is being sustained and continuing to develop, then there's no reason to kill it.
Okay,
the human
so
I've answered it. I've answered it. Now,
okay, all right. So
now
I
you're
just
gonna
want it.
tell me-
Okay, I just want it to be known. He would force a woman to give birth to a baby without a brain
What is
and
sentience?
risk her dying
What is
to give birth
sentience?
to a baby with
What
no
is
brain.
sentience? What is sentience?
Okay, so sentience is the ability to have a subjective experience.
Okay, and how do you identify that is occurring?
How do I identify? Well, the easiest way is to ask the organism whether or not it is capable of having a subjective experience. Obviously, you can do that with people who can speak. The way you do that with, say, animals or any other being, well, you'd look at structures that are similar in beings that we know have sentience, so like humans. If an animal has similar structures like a brain, nervous system, cerebrum, shit like that, chances are it's sentient.
What's the
if it
actual
has
indicator for sentience, though?
Sorry?
What's the actual indicator in terms of like the physical state? What is it that indicates sentience? Like the physical existence of like the brain or whatever. Like what is it? Like because certainly there's organisms that have brains that aren't sentient. Certainly.
You'd have to give me an example of that. I don't know.
Like
any.
the sentience, like so the brain. I think the brain tissue begins to develop within 8 weeks of a pregnancy, but certainly that thing's not sentient. Like at 7 weeks or whatever,
it could be. Yeah, it could be.
Well, how would you know?
Well, you don't. There are inferences you can make, and the greater amount of data you have, the greater amount of inferences you can make to deduce whether or not
you
it's
don't
sentient.
actually know whether it's sentient or not, unless you can interact with it, which you can't.
Well, look, we can interact with fetuses at that gestational age, and that's why we have data.
How do you do that?
Indicating.
How do you interact with it? I mean, like talk to it, touch it, whatever. Like.
Well, yeah. Again, you can use devices to actually directly interact with the fetus, like surgical devices.
But then what are you looking for that would indicate that it's sentient?
Well, you can look at things like brain activity, neural activity. You can actually look at how its nervous system responds to stimuli or noxious stimuli, and you can see whether or not it's reflex based or not.
Yeah, but this is the thing. There are many organisms that don't have brains or that don't have the they just don't have brain. I mean, you could look at plants, you could look at ants, you could look at any small organism, bacteria that are reacting to stimuli, reacting to the external world, that you wouldn't call that sentience.
Yeah, so bacteria can certainly react to stimuli. The difference is,
how do you distinguish that from sentience?
Well, again, you would look to see whether or not the organism has similar structures to other beings that do have sentience, like humans. Like, again, a fucking elephant
Similar
has
by
a brain.
what basis?
Well, again, structures that we know cause sentience in, like, humans. So, like, again, a brain, nervous system, eyes are a really good indicator of sentience because, again, if you have eyes and those eyes are attached to a brain, you would assume the being is able to have some sort of subjective experience, like visually anyway.
But ultimately, when you determine something to be sentient, you're only doing so based on your preference for the definition, right?
No.
Well, okay, is there a scientific consensus on this then?
Well, there certainly is on certain animals. Some animals, sure, it's questionable whether or not they're sentient.
No, like on the existence of sentience and when it begins. Is there some hardline scientific consensus on when this begins? I'm talking about humans in particular here, by the way.
No, there's debate, but again, you can make a series of inferences, and the more inferences you can make, the closer you can, the greater degree of certainty you'll have when you make the deduction.
But you don't actually know. You don't actually have that. You don't even have close to a scientific consensus. If I'm not mistaken, like it's all over the place.
I have no idea.
Some people would say, I think you would probably say 8 weeks, because your crew says that. Some people say 12 to 16. Like
I don't think it's 8 weeks, actually.
Weeks.
I think it's probably closer to between 12 and like 15 weeks.
So yeah, like your boys, Avi and Ask Yourself, they say 8 weeks. I think.
Well, they say that's the earliest.
Everybody in your guys'
time.
camp says different things. You guys don't even have unified.
No. What they say is that's the earliest possible time that we can make an inference as to whether or not it's sentient, and they use a precautionary principle.
But that's just based on your judgment, your preferences.
No. I don't know how that's based on my preferences. Again, these are inferences we can make towards whether or not it's sentient.
Yeah, you're just making an inference based on what you prefer to define something as sentient or not.
Okay, well, let's establish this. Do you think a brain is required for sentience?
I'm not sure. I don't
know
exactly.
So if I cut your head off and removed your head, you think without a brain your body would be sentient?
This is the thing. I don't think sentience. I don't know if there is any hardline indicator for sentience. I don't know what sentience actually means.
You can
I think
like
if you ask me,
we can.
If you ask, well, hold on. If you ask me,
go ahead.
If you ask me, sentience just means being or consciousness. I would consider them basically interchangeable. That it's just having or being awake, being aware of your surroundings. And I don't know if there is some hardline indicator of that. I mean, you probably need a brain, you probably need muscles, you probably need a heart, you probably need a lot of things. I don't know. I don't even know what the hell it means.
Again, we can't know another mind. So, again, we can make inferences towards whether or not something is sentient. And the greater amount of inferences you can make, the higher degree of certainty you have. Just like the example you gave about fetal viability. Again, you literally, it's the same kind of issue. Like the more inferences you can make, the greater certainty you can make a determination.
Yeah, but in your worldview, okay, I don't necessarily want to go straight to the meta, but in your worldview, like your epistemology is only granted in your preferences, and you don't actually believe in some standard for absolute truth or knowledge per se, like justified, absolutely true belief. Like you don't have a standard for that, do you? You're just agnostic on it.
I don't know what you mean by that.
Do you believe in an absolute standard of truth?
Like whether or not something can be true regardless of the presence of a mind?
Yeah, and regardless of the presence of like a human mind, like objectively true.
Yeah, objective means mind independent, so that would mean independent of any mind. Yeah, it's possible that something is true whether or not a mind exists.
Yeah, do you believe that there are standards of absolute truth? That's what I'm asking. Do you believe that those exist?
Well, again, I believe that something can be objectively true. We can go down like a weird rabbit hole where all of our senses could be lying to us, and we have no capability of establishing an objective proof.
Yeah.
Like we could be a brain in a vat. Like we could all be brains in a vat in a computer
Is that what
simulation.
You believe? Do you believe?
Well, I don't believe that. Well, it's possible that's the case, but there's no reason for me to believe that would be the case.
Right, but how could we identify something to be objectively true?
Well, we have to make assumptions on a few fundamental things, like whether or not we can trust our senses.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Like, given what you hold to in your worldview, do you believe that that's possible to identify something that's absolutely true, objectively true?
It's possible, yes.
And do you believe that there's a means to do that?
I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, so you're agnostic on it. But when you say we make inferences toward greater and greater certainty, you don't even know what the standard of certainty is. So you're actually just this is sophistry. You don't have a justification. You don't have a justification for certainty.
Well, sure, we use the scientific method. Like, again, we have to make some assumptions about
the scientific
things,
method
like,
presupposes a standard of certainty.
Yeah, it does. Same as
it?
any kind of same with
What
this is the suppositionalist bullshit, right? You're assuming God exists.
Yeah. It's everybody has presuppositions. You can't escape them.
Exactly.
So I'm just simply asking, do you have a standard that you presuppose to identify absolute objective truth?
Well, again, I can't necessarily know anything is objectively true because I have to rely on my personal.
Snake's saga their head is still alive for a few minutes after being decapitated.
When
not
you
the
say
humans.
we make inferences toward greater and greater certainty, then that does presuppose that you have a standard of certainty that you can strive toward, but you don't even know what that is. So how do you even know that you're going
again? If we
direction?
Make some assumptions, like we can trust at least some of our senses. Like, again, I can try to get as close to an objective truth as I can using something like the scientific method. But okay, what point are you trying to make?
That's putting the cart before the horse. You need to have a standard of truth to be striving.
What do you mean a
before
standard
you
of
invoke the
truth?
scientific method. A standard of truth that you're striving toward.
Okay,
That's
like
all.
to some
But you don't-
extent, I can trust my senses. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, but you can say you can have some degree of confidence in your senses, but you don't know that there is an actual standard of certainty in your senses, do you?
I don't know what you mean by that.
Yeah, exactly. You don't know. So
Like,
that's all I'm pointing at. So this is another thing that I want to get it back on track. We don't have to sit here and do meta the whole time, though we can if you want. I don't know. When you say you value the sentient life, obviously you wouldn't be okay with killing somebody in a coma or somebody who's sleeping, right? Even though they're not currently sentient in that moment. Is that correct?
Say that again.
So you say you value sentient life, but obviously you would not be okay with killing somebody who's in a coma or somebody who's like asleep or something that's not really sentient in that moment, right?
Well, people in comas are sentient. It's just that they're not conscious. I'm sure there's some type of brain injury you can have where you're no longer sentient in a coma, but like some of your functions are still working, like heartbeat. But no, typically people who are in comas, they are sentient. It's just that they're not awake, like consciously awake.
Yeah, and that's where we're gonna have a problem, because when I hear the word sentient, I almost just say like it's the ability to, like, if you look at a dictionary definition, it's just like the ability to perceive things. But I don't know that a person who's in a coma is actually perceiving anything. I don't see that there's any way to identify.
Well, there are at least some, and the only way to really know is to ask them if they wake up.
Right, and if they can't wake up, if they're in a coma and they cannot wake up, obviously you would not be okay with killing them, even though they're
Depends.
not identifiably sentient in that moment. Right?
Depends. We put my grandfather to death after he had a heart attack, and he was in a coma. So it depends.
Was that a murder?
You could consider it a murder. I would consider it.
I'm asking you.
Well, I don't know. Like, from my perspective, I'd call that a mercy killing, not a murder.
How do you actually distinguish that? If your hard line is valuing a sentient experience,
my grandfather told us specifically and explicitly that if he ever wound up in a coma and if he were to wake up, he'd be like mentally retarded and brain damaged. Just kill him.
Okay,
and that's what we did.
Let's just say somebody didn't. Let's just say somebody didn't give that indicator prior. Like they got in a car accident and were put in a coma, and they didn't make and they're like, let's say my age or your age or something. They're in a coma. They're not able to what's the word? Reciprocate communication. They're not able to tell you
Sure.
that they're awake or whatever. You clearly would not be okay with killing that person, right?
Again, depends. Somebody doesn't necessarily need to explicitly state something like that to you. If you know somebody well enough, you can make a series of pretty accurate inferences to what.
Yeah, but if they're in a coma, and like maybe they have the potential to wake up, or maybe not, would it be okay to kill them?
Depends.
Depends on what?
I literally just told you whether or not you can make an accurate inference on what they would personally.
But you don't. You're begging
prefer.
the question. You don't have a standard for accurate.
What do you mean?
You don't. We just went through this.
I don't need to. I don't need to have an extremely accurate standard for when to mercy kill.
You don't even have a standard at all. You don't know. You're agnostic on what accuracy is. You're agnostic on certainty, on truth. You can't use those words in a sentence and speak meaningfully. You're just, again, this is sophistry.
Okay, great. What's your point?
My point is that you're begging the question. You're not speaking meaningfully.
Do you know what begging the question is?
Yeah. It means you're assuming the conclusion, or you're assuming the conclusion within your premise, something like that. Yeah, you're assuming a standard of accuracy, a standard of certainty or truth, without actually establishing that.
I don't need to have an established amount of accuracy. Like, again, this just comes down to personal preference. Somebody's personal preference for accuracy may be different than my own.
Grounded in preference.
To some extent, sure. Like, we're talking about normative values.
Your ultimate standard for your epistemology is grounded in preferences, right? Like, you're a moral anti-realist, and you think that morals and certain metaphysical
What's a moral
concepts,
anti-realist?
Well, do you believe that morals are real, or do you think that they're just subjective and preference based?
Well, yeah, they're subjective. That doesn't mean they're not real.
Are they ontologically real? Like, are they objective?
I don't know how they could possibly be objective. Can you give me an example of a moral view that exists without the mind?
Yeah, so then you're a moral anti-realist. If you don't believe that there's some objective and human mind independent standard for morals, then you're a moral anti-realist.
It doesn't need to be a human mind. It's mind, period. So it could be the mind of God. It could be the mind of a human, the mind of a rabbit.
No, you can say that. I don't agree with that.
Objective means mind independent. So God has a mind. If we assume God to have a mind, that would mean it would have to be independent of God.
So if I just have a preference that that the standard is actually being human-minded.
Can you give me an example of a moral principle that exists without a mind?
So if I just have a simple preference.
Okay, you can't answer the question, can you?
Well, no, because I believe that morals are objective, but they are.
Yeah, you can't answer the question. So give me an example of a moral principle that exists without a mind.
If you would let me finish, I was answering. So I believe that morals are objective and grounded in the mind of God, but all I have to say, given your
that's a mind. That is a mind.
Excuse me.
God has a mind, correct?
Excuse me.
You literally just contradicted yourself.
But when one person
you literally just contradicted yourself.
I don't know if you understand how moral or how conversations work, but you let the other person finish before you cut in.
Well, I don't think you know how fucking sentences work, since you constantly contradict yourself.
If you would just let me finish what I'm saying, thank you. So when I say morals are objective, and I'm going to have to start over because you can't control yourself. When I say morals are objective and I say that they're grounded in the mind of God, but I still consider that to be objective because God is the transcendental universal standard for truth, for morals, etc. But all I have to do this internal critique is I don't actually have to impose myself on you. I have to say that all my preferences are that objective just means human mind independent, and that the mind of God would still mean something is objective, and that's my preference. And that's what my epistemology is grounded in, and so is yours, and you have no way to rebut that because it's all preference based. You're not making.
Can you give me an example of a moral principle existing without any mind?
Well, again,
you can't. It has to be God.
Listen, all I have
you
to
can't.
Say is
it has to be God.
Yeah. So all I have to say is that
it doesn't matter. You can define it any way you want. I'm not even. You can define it any way you want. I'm asking you to give an example of a moral principle that exists without any mind, including God's mind.
Yeah, so my preference
that has nothing to do. That has nothing to do with what I just asked you. That literally has nothing to do with what I just asked you. You're just defining a word a different way.
All right, hang on. We got to get some semblance here. Then we'll start with you this time. Finish what you're saying here.
Yeah. So again, what I'm telling you is that your worldview is, and your epistemology is grounded in preferences. So all I have to do as an internal critique, without even invoking my worldview, is say that objective standards for morals and truth are grounded in the mind of God rather than a human mind, and my preference is to call that objective. And you have no way of actually rebutting that, because it's just.
Does God have preferences?
It doesn't matter. It's my preference.
Does God have preferences? Yes or no?
It doesn't matter. It's my preference.
Does God have preferences? Yes or no?
We're not talking
Can you
about
give
that.
me an example of a moral principle existing without any mind?
No, again, I've already told you that morals.
It's a red herring. That's a red herring. Has nothing to do with what I just asked you.
How are you calling
that
it a
has
red herring?
literally nothing to do with what I just asked you. Give me an example of a moral principle existing without any mind.
You're ridiculous. Bro.
Give me an example of a moral principle existing without any mind.
Yeah, you're ridiculous. Okay, so I've told you.
You're literally just redefining the word objective.
In my worldview.
In your worldview, objective means subjective.
You don't let me respond.
No, in your worldview, objective means subjective. So I'm getting rid of that word you're using. Give me an example of a moral principle existing without any mind, including God's mind.
Soy Gaines, listen, you're doing this thing where you ask a question and then you keep talking. So just shut the fuck up.
You're not answering the question. That's why I'm asking you over and over again.
I'm trying to answer your question, and then you start talking again.
Okay. Okay. All you have to do is give me an example of a moral principle existing without any mind.
Shut the fuck up, dude. If you just shut up, I will answer your question.
Okay, what you're going to do is then talk about how you use the word objective completely differently, which has nothing to do with what I just asked. Go ahead, waste your time. Go ahead, waste your time.
Answer the question.
That's right, make your red herring, dodge, do whatever you need to. Go ahead.
Just stop talking. I'm trying to answer you. Okay, so in my worldview and in the internal critique that I'm doing, morals are grounded in the mind of God. So to reiterate your question, don't interrupt. I know you want to. When you say, can you give me an example of a moral preference or a moral principle that is not grounded in a mind? The answer is no, because morals are grounded in the mind of God as the transcendental ultimate. So the answer is no.
I could say my morals are grounded in my mind. What difference does that make? How is that any different? How is that any different?
I promise I'll let you respond. So just to finish that off, when I say grounded in the mind of God, I'm still invoking that as objective and universal.
It's not objective. It's not objective. It's mind dependent. It's just dependent of God's mind. I can literally do the same thing. I could say morals are grounded in a duck's mind. I could say morals are grounded in a rat's mind. I could say morals are grounded in that homeless guy's mind who smokes crack. Literally, that's literally how you're defining objective. You're just choosing what mind is grounded in some sort of
I don't
truth.
You know what you're talking about.
You're literally choosing what mind you're grounding your ethics on. In your case, it's God. I could ground it in something else. That doesn't make it objective. That's still subjective. It's dependent of a mind.
Based on who? Based on your preferences? Based on your preferences?
This has nothing to do with preference.
When you
what are you talking about? You have a preference in grounding your morals in God. You have your preference in grounding your morals in God.
When you say anything at all, you are ultimately grounding the epistemic assertion in your preferences. You don't have a mind-independent standard for anything that you say.
Okay, well, you know what? Your God has a preference to let children get raped. Your God has a preference to abort children. Your God has a preference to let people starve to death.
Yeah, no, that's not true.
Yeah, that is true. So explain to me how your God lets children get raped. Your God's sitting up there in the sky watching children get raped. Is he a pervert? Your God's a pedophile, right? Is he jerking off when he sees kids getting raped?
Weird, dude.
Does your God jerk off when he sees kids getting raped? He doesn't do anything about it. He doesn't stop kids getting raped. You ground your morals in a being that just watches children get raped?
Yeah, so
that's where your grounding is?
But you're just having more soy rage. I don't know.
No, I guess you ground your morals in a God that loves watching children get raped. Your God just strokes it every time a kid gets raped. Every time a child gets raped, your God just fucking strokes it and watches, sits back, right? That's what you ground your morals in?
That sounds like projection, bro. That sounds like projection from you. Maybe that's what you do. I hope not, but.
Well, anyway, your God wouldn't mind because he just sits back and watches. See, your God wouldn't mind, would he? He wouldn't stop me. Your God wouldn't stop me. Would he? No, he just sits back and jerks off.
A soy rage break.
Yeah, right. Your God just sits back, watches children get raped. That's who you ground your morals in. A fucking piece of shit that watches children get raped when he has the power to stop it. You ground your morals in a being that is all powerful and allows children to get raped. Your God is pro-rape. No, your God is pro-child rape, clearly.
Just let me know when you're done, okay?
Right, that's what you ground your morals in. A fucking God that lets children get raped. There you go. Yeah, okay. I'm done. I'm done.
I didn't get to... Okay,
I'm done.
Thanks. Prove it and shut the fuck up. So, yeah, I didn't get to respond to any of that, but I don't think you actually wanted a response. I think you just wanted to soy rage. But I do find it funny. I think you were projecting, and ultimately, no matter what kind of gotcha you're trying to throw at me by strawmanning my worldview, I can point to the question I asked you like 2 weeks ago when I asked you, would you prefer a world where people have sex with cows instead of eat them? And you said yes. So that's straight from the vegan soy horse's mouth.
Okay, dumbass. If there's only two options, I'd obviously choose. If there's two options, I'd obviously choose the least bad option. Would you rather live in a world? Okay, let me ask you this: would you rather live in a world where only adults get raped or only children get raped? Would you rather live in a world where only adults get raped or only children get raped? Would you rather live in a world where only adults get raped or only children get raped? Would you? Answer.
No, listen, dude.
Answer. No, it's you. No. The only thing that should go out of your mouth is one word: adult or child. Adult or child. No, you're just bullshitting right now. Would you rather live in a world where only adults get raped or only children get raped?
If you just quickly
one word answer: adult or child. That's all that should come out of your mouth.
Yeah, I would prefer no rape. That would be great.
No, that's not an option. You can either choose only adults get raped or only children get raped. Only adults get raped or only children get raped.
Yeah, I mean,
which world would you rather live in between those two choices?
I don't know. They both
so you don't know? So you're fine with either children or adults getting raped. You're agnostic. You're agnostic on whether or not it's okay to rape. See, I can play those stupid fucking word games with you too, dipshit.
I don't know.
You're a fucking moron. Yeah, no shit. In a world where fucking cows get eaten and cows get raped, that's horrible too. You only gave me two fucking options, and you're playing these stupid fucking word games. You know what, dipshit? I just want to punch your fucking face in. Let's set up a boxing match because you're too stupid to fucking debate. I'm so sick of you. You're a fucking idiot. I'm gonna scramble your fucking brains in so fucking hard, you're never going to be able to have a fucking debate in your life again.
You're gonna need to eat some meat.
No, I'm not. I'm not gonna get a fucking strike. A boxing match. Legal boxing match. I'm not gonna fucking come and find you and beat you up. Legal boxing match.
I don't know. I think the soy is getting to your head a little bit. I do.
Oh yeah, well that's where I get my fucking protein from, buddy. And guess what? I'm gonna use that fucking to beat your head in.
It's not good enough, bro. It's not.
Oh yeah, seriously. Oh yeah, we'll see how you do in a fucking boxing match, dipshit.
Last thing, because we're winding it down. We are winding it down. I did want to get an answer. Like I told you in good faith, I don't know what I would prefer, children or adults getting raped, because they both sound horrible. I don't know which one would be preferable because they, like I said, they both just sound so awful. I can't even fathom it. But when
how about a world where God exists and lets children get raped, or a world where God doesn't exist?
Whoa, relax.
What world would you rather live in? A world where God lets children get raped, or a world where God stops children from getting raped? How about that? Would you rather live in a world where God stops children from getting raped, or a world where God just lets children get raped? What's preferable?
Premise, because God gives us free will and He doesn't infringe.
Oh yeah, right. You're all loving, all moral God lets children get raped. So that's an admission that your God's fine with child rape. Yeah, your God's fine with child rape. You just admit it, and that's what you ground your morals in. You ground your morals in a fucking being that lets children get raped.
Hey, okay, listen, dude. When you said that there are more preferable worlds than the one that we have now, where people eat meat, you said that one where people don't eat meat but have sex with cows would be more preferable than this one, right? You did say that, right?
Yeah, would a world where God stops children from getting raped, or a world where God sits back and lets children get raped? Which world would be preferable? What world would be preferable? What world would be preferable? What world would be preferable? Apparently, your God would prefer to live in a world where he lets children get raped.
I've already answered this, dude. I told
your
you
God has a preference to allow child rape. Admit it. Your God has a preference to allow child rape.
He permits that
he permits children getting raped. Yes, we agree on that.
He permits us to have free will.
Yeah, he permits us to rape children. You agree.
Well, no, he does.
Yeah, he permits us to. He doesn't stop. He doesn't stop us. He doesn't stop us, does he?
Because we act on our own free will, and he doesn't infringe.
Yeah, right. And your God's acting on his free will to sit back and do nothing.
Well, that's
so he permits child rape.
His own free.
Right.
He's his own.
Yeah, the all loving, all powerful being that you worship and stroke it.
And then he creates us in his image, which entails that we have agency and that we have free will to act as we choose. But there are still more.
But your God doesn't act. But your God doesn't act in a way that would prevent child rape. Your God doesn't act in a way that would prevent child rape. Your God apparently has agency, which is why he gave us agency, but he doesn't use his agency to stop child rape. So your God is pro-child rape. No, your God is pro-child rape. Every time a child is about to get raped, God could intervene, but he doesn't. Police intervene, like law-abiding citizens who have moral values intervene, but your God doesn't intervene.
Well, it's because he doesn't infringe upon our free will. I don't know if I
okay. So we should just let children get raped? Should there not be a police force and just let children get raped?
No, actually.
So apparently your God doesn't care about laws because he doesn't use his power to stop crime.
Let me answer you. Just let me answer you, dude. No, we should not allow children to get raped if we
well your God does. Shouldn't we emulate your God? Shouldn't we emulate your God? Shouldn't we live just like God does? So we should just sit back and let children get raped.
Please let me finish my answer.
Shouldn't we follow what God does? Shouldn't we follow what God does and just let children get raped?
You're here to engage in good faith.
No, should we just do what God does and let children get raped?
This is why you guys should not be
right. Okay, well your beliefs are fucking stupid and you know it, and you've been dodging this entire fucking debate.
You should not consume soy.
No, your debates are fucking ridiculous. No, sorry, your beliefs are ridiculous and stupid.
You're pro bestiality, okay, yeah.
I'm pro bestiality. Well, you're pro child rape.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you are. You're pro child rape. No, you worship a God that allows children to get raped, so you're pro child rape. You worship a pro child rape God. He just sits back and lets children get raped. I can play these stupid fucking word games just like you, dumbass.
That's incorrect.
No, you're silly. You're a fucking idiot.
Wait. Yeah.
I think I've proven at this point that you're a fucking joke. You're a dishonest piece of trash. You're just a dishonest piece of trash.
No. What do you mean? Listen, dude, I'm trying to engage you in good faith every time you talk. And
No, you're not. No, you're not. You accuse me of being pro-bestiality. You accuse me of being pro-bestiality. You're not arguing in good faith. You're just a fucking clown. This entire debate you've been dodging.
To this current world. You prefer bestiality.
Yeah, and you prefer child rape. You prefer child rape. You prefer a world where children get raped. Yes, you do. You prefer a world where children get raped. You just said it's good that God gives us free will to rape children. You would rather live in a world where children get raped. You would rather live in a world where children get raped. You're a pro-child rapist.
If you let me answer you. Notice that when you accuse me of being pro-child rape or whatnot, I immediately reject it because it's untrue. When I accuse you of being you preferring bestiality to the current world, you sit there and dodge and deflect because you know it's true. You know that you prefer bestiality to eating cows.
I would prefer the least bad option.
Yeah, which
just
is
like how, but you don't prefer the least bad option. You would rather live in a world that has child rape. You would rather live in a world that has child rape. I prefer the least bad option. You would rather live in a world that has child rape.
Guys, we've gone at it. We've got to wind down on the closing arguments. We got a bunch of callers lined up. As Zen, you opened, I'm going to give you the last word on the close, and we'll let Vegan Gains go ahead and give his open first. Go ahead, VG.
Yeah, so I think over the course of this debate, I've kind of proven that Zen doesn't actually care much about human life. He cares about sentient human life. Multiple times he slipped up and said, oh, if a fetus is viable, if it's going to live outside the womb, if it's going to develop with a brain and other organ systems that he considers valuable. So anybody who only cares merely about human cells developing in any sort of way, whether it's just skin cells that keep multiplying or like a heart muscle developing, it's absolutely ridiculous. This leads to a reductio where he's fine with forcing women giving birth to what are essentially cancerous tumors that just have some human tissue that's still growing. And again, throughout this entire discussion, he ended up slipping up. And adding additional stipulations that suggest he cares primarily about sentience, not necessarily just human life, period.
Appreciate that closing. Go ahead, Zen, whenever you're ready.
Okay, so try to do a quick recap, and I'll try to be as charitable as I can, but I can't guarantee it. I really can't guarantee it. So I gave Vegan Gains here the line of questioning to start. He started investigating the whole syngamy versus fertilization thing at the very beginning. I think I gave fair refutations to that to establish what I mean when I say genetically distinct and why that is at conception or fertilization, and that it really doesn't matter what semantic term you want to use there to describe that. So that was rebutted properly. And then we got into the whole molar pregnancy argument, and he continued to modify hypotheticals after hypotheticals after hypotheticals to get what he wanted, but ultimately he couldn't because there isn't actually a contradiction there or any severe bullets that I have to bite. I'm saying that it's a human person. If there is, an indicator that it's continuing to sustain itself, like the fetal tissue and whatnot, and that it can be birthed and sustained, at the time of delivery, then there's no reason to kill it. And if you did, then that would be murder. And ultimately, there's always exceptions for if the mother's life is in danger. So there was really nowhere for him to go on that when he was exploring my worldview. I think that was all covered. And then when we get into exploring his worldview, I ask him, what is sentience? How do you actually establish what sentience is? Like, is there any scientific basis for this, a scientific consensus? There's really not. You get a bunch of mixed answers from no matter what source you look at, you're always going to get different answers, and you just have to make a preference claim as to what sentience actually means. And then you fall to relativism. You don't actually have an argument. You don't have an ought claim that somebody ought follow or ought agree with your definition of sentience. And it's also interesting that I didn't hear a clear distinction between subjective experience and just simple reactivity to the external world. When you look at like bacteria cells or ants or whatever that Vegan Gains would not claim to be sentient, but they are still reacting to the environment. So it's interesting, like, how do you actually establish that? And then when we get to the meta ethics, we find that his epistemology is ultimately grounded in preferences. And really all I have to say to that is, my preferences are that you're wrong and I'm right, and that objective can still be mind dependent on the mind of God as the transcendental, universal ultimate that gives us ises and oughts. So there's no problem with an is to ought gap here in my worldview, because the is and the ought are coming from the same place. So, and then what we saw after that was me calling out the absurdity of the vegan worldview, in that they would have to say that bestiality is actually more preferable to eating steak. So if we could move to a world where people stop eating cows but instead had sex with them, Vegan Gains would have to agree with that and prefer that. And then he could proceed to straw man the Christian worldview and say that we're pro rape and whatnot, which is ultimately, like I said, a straw man. It's not true. And then you guys got to be entertained by soy rage. So I did my best, but you guys are welcome for the entertainment at the end there. And I had fun, and I hope there's no truly bad blood Vegan Gains. I know that these things do get contentious, and I'm sure there's going to be more back and forth going forward, but I do appreciate you coming on and doing the debate. So that's all I got.
Gentlemen, appreciate it so much. Just so everybody knows, we do things a little bit differently at the Crucible. When the closing statements are done, we do consider the debate to be closed. The moderator takes notes throughout the debate. I always have a couple of questions of my own. I don't know if we'll be able to get to them tonight or not, based on call volume and super chats. We're going to go ahead and move into the caller portion of this. Chase, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me?
I can. Go ahead when you're ready.
Yeah, so Richard, I have a couple questions. Do you think words all have univocal meaning? Like they all mean the same thing?
Words all mean the same thing? What do you mean?
Like if I say the word world or good, it's going to mean the same thing regardless of what someone.
Well, no, it depends on the context, depends on how you personally define something. There's other cultures that use similar words or the same words, but they mean different things.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. So when you say that objective means dependent on a Christian worldview isn't objective because it's dependent on the mind of God, you realize that you're treating subjective and objective like they have univocal meanings.
Well, they do. It's absolutely ridiculous. Wait.
Words have univocal meanings.
You are
now?
completely this is an equivocation. So you're claiming that just because words don't necessarily have a universal meaning, that means you can change the word objective to mean subjective, which is what
that's not what it is. So no, it's
literally
not. So
did that.
Listen
no,
for a
he
second.
said he gave an example of morality that was dependent on a mind. That is subjective.
It's my time. Okay. So my question to you is, if I tell you if you were trying to make me a vegan, if I tell you, yeah, subjective is going to be something that's human mind dependent and objective is going to be something that comes from God, you're going to say that that's subjective?
Yeah, it is. It's mind dependent.
Okay, so you don't know how to do an internal critique then.
Well, I did do an internal critique because I avoided even using either of those words, and I asked him to provide it. No. It's
so listen. An internal critique, when you do an internal critique, you actually listen to what your opponent's definitions are, and then you critique them
the word
from
duck
there.
means car. The word yellow means like sun. I could change words to mean any fucking different thing. I mean, it doesn't mean it doesn't mean I can't do an internal critique just because I don't use those specific words.
When you superimpose and you change, you superimpose your worldview onto another person's worldview, that's not an internal critique.
Okay, so if I were to say murder is not killing somebody, and I don't know, saving a life means the same thing as murder, and I said, and I went and shot up a school, and I said, I murdered children, but in my worldview, it means I saved children. Does that mean, what's the internal critique there? I can't just completely and utterly change the definition of a word just to, play this weird word game where I didn't kill anybody.
That's not what anyone did.
He did. So again, he completely changed the word objective to mean the opposite.
No, you can look
yes, he did.
My definition, but all I have to say is that that's my preference. Like, what are you going to say if I just have a preference? A word meaning something that you prefer it doesn't mean, then how do we resolve that?
Well, that's great. I also sidestepped that whole issue, and I asked you whether to provide an example of moral values being dependent of any mind, and you couldn't. And you couldn't. And then when I asked you whether or not God has preferences, you kept dodging and you wouldn't answer the question.
I never said.
Okay, does God have preferences? Yes or no?
I wouldn't call them preferences. No.
So God doesn't have preferences? So he has no preference whether or not children get raped?
No, you don't understand our system.
There you go. So right. So God doesn't have preferences. So he has no preference on whether or not whether or not children get raped.
It's okay. You've rambled and talked over people this whole debate. I'll get one more question before I have to leave. So again, I'm not saying that you have to go and use all the same words when you're doing an internal critique, but you can't superimpose your definitions onto an internal critique. That doesn't work. That's not an internal critique.
Yeah,
yes, you did.
No, I didn't. I sidestepped. I even sidestepped the whole issue. I asked him whether
you didn't.
No, okay.
So I'm sorry, Chase. I got a lot of callers that I got to get behind you. If you want to go ahead and respond to that, you can, VG. Before
I sidestepped the whole issue by not even using any of those words, and I asked him whether or not there are moral principles he can identify that are independent of any mind. He couldn't give me an example. Then when I asked him whether or not God has his own preferences, he just dodged that question completely until now. And then he said, oh, God doesn't have preferences. And then when I asked him, so he doesn't have a preference as to whether or not children get raped, again, couldn't answer, just dodged.
Gotcha. I'm going to bring the next caller in. Why bad thing happen? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead whenever you're ready.
Albanian.
Yeah, what's up, man? I just have one quick question. Let's say a homeless man gets hit by a car. Would it be okay for me to go and shoot him to put him out of his misery?
Probably not.
Why not?
Well, again, because you don't know this person, you don't know whether or not he wants to be mercy killed.
Yeah,
secondly, depending on the severity of the crash, he might be able to make a full recovery just fine. There's a bunch of factors where I'd say probably not.
But let's say it's my subjective experience that he's suffering. Why shouldn't I kill him?
Because I just have a set of preferences where I don't think that's moral.
Okay, well, my set of preferences say it is.
Okay, well, okay, well, you know what? I believe in a God where I should shoot up schools. So I like
why bad thing happened. Seriously,
literally,
dude,
literally. Okay, literally. I don't see how that stupid shit is any different than what you do. Oh, my beliefs come from God. My beliefs come from God. Okay, well, my beliefs come from God that I should shoot up schools. Oh, my belief comes from God where I should save homeless people. My belief comes from God that no, we should save homeless. Like you're literally just making shit up and adding God to it. You're literally just making okay. Why? I just told you it's a set of preferences. Your preferences are you have your own set of preferences, and all you do is add God onto that, and you think that makes your preferences be more meaningful.
So is Hitler?
Yeah, Sky Santa. Sky Santa makes your moral preferences meaningful. Okay.
Okay. I'd say that's it for my question. That's all I want.
Yeah, Sky Santa. Right.
I want to
Okay.
explore that a little bit though. When you say like all I have to say is my God, it would follow. You would have to be able to articulate the entailments of that God. Like what are the properties, the attributes, the nature of
okay. Well,
God
look at Islam versus Christianity. There's different views.
Real quick. If it's the same God that I am invoking, or that any other Christian is invoking, then you wouldn't actually be able to say that. So that's all. Like that. God
what do you mean? What do you mean? There's disagreements within Christianity. Certainly, look at the Catholic and Protestant Church.
When it comes to something like murder, just something simple like murder, killing a 5-year-old for no reason whatsoever. There's no Christian worldview or version of Christianity.
Who cares? I could say I don't believe in that God. I believe in some other God.
So what
God, does it matter?
What I was saying. Like, which God is that?
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. Thor, the God of War, like Kratos. Like I don't. It doesn't matter. I could just say a God did that.
But just real quick, if you were to invoke a God like that,
did you say Kratos?
You invoke. You can invoke. You can invoke your God. I can invoke my God. Do
you think you'd be able to defend it?
As well as you can. Like you just make shit up.
Would you even be able to tell me?
Really, you literally just make shit up. That's all it is. Okay, like I could get a satanic Bible. I could get the Quran.
You wouldn't even be able to tell me what the property set of Thor is or what. Kratos
sure, I can. I can make up a whole bunch of shit.
Yeah, you can make it up. You could make it up.
Sure,
there you go. Yeah,
sure, just like you do. Right, just like you do.
No,
just like
not like I do.
Guess what? The Bible was made up. The Bible was written by people.
No.
It's a collection of different writings from over hundreds of thousands of years. It was made up. It's a collection of stories. Same with the Bhagavad Gita, same as the Quran, same as Scientology. It's all the same. I can make up whatever I want and invoke God into anything. You're just saying, no, you know, I believe in the one true God. You don't. You're just wrong. You're just wrong. How are we going to resolve that if we're not going?
Yes, you got it.
How are you to resolve religious differences if all you're going to say is, oh, I believe in the true God. You're wrong.
Yeah, you're wrong.
How are you going to resolve any difference if you're only going to use your own secular, non-secular values?
I'm right, you're wrong, and that's my preference, and you have no way to rebut that. Okay.
You have no way to rebut that. You have no. The Christian God doesn't exist. The only gods that exist are the Norse gods, like Thor, Odin. So rebut that?
Bro.
No, prove that Thor doesn't exist. Yeah. You know what? There's more evidence for the existence of Thor. Do you see any ice giants? Thor said he'd get rid of ice giants. Do you see any ice giants around? See, Thor exists. See, Thor exists. Where's your God? Where's the evidence for your God? Huh?
How do you justify Thor's existence? Like as a necessary...
There's no ice giants.
No,
and when I pray to Thor, he gives me extra energy.
You didn't understand the question because you cut me off in the middle of it. As a necessary precondition for intelligibility, for metaphysics, epistemology, and ethics, how do you justify Thor as the precondition for that?
Sorry, for what?
For what I just said. For your metaphysics, your epistemology, and your ethics. How do you justify Thor as the precondition for that?
How do you justify Jesus?
Answering
how do you how do you justify your God?
Question with a question.
No, how do you justify your God? I'll do the same. No, I'll do the same thing you do. How do you justify your God?
We'll move on because you can't.
No, I'll do the same thing you do. How do you justify your God? Give me an example of how you just. Give me an example of how you just. No, you can't do it. You can't do it because all you do is make up shit. All you do is make up shit, and everything you say is right because God said so. God said so. But my Sky Santa. Well, you know, I believe in the right Sky Santa. It's Thor. No, Thor. There's no ice giants around. Thor promised to get rid of ice giants, so Thor exists. You can't even justify your fucking beliefs, and then you're trying. Do it. Justify your beliefs.
So
justify your beliefs.
Okay, so the reason I'm actually not going to answer your question, not only because you could.
You're not going to answer my question because you're a lying, dishonest cunt. All you do is make up bullshit.
Excuse me.
No, fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. All you do is make up fucking bullshit. All you do is make up bullshit and invoke God. And then when you challenge my beliefs and I ask you the same question to justify your beliefs, you can't even do it. You're a lying, dishonest fuck. If your God exists, you better be fucking worried because I think he'll send you to hell for lying so much.
Let me know when you're done. No, hold on. Let me answer before you. No, let me.
All right. Go
him.
ahead. He can answer real quick. Go ahead, Zen.
He's not going to answer anything. Fuck him. He's not answering anything. He's just fucking wasting our time.
Just shut up for 5
Fuck
seconds.
You.
Dude.
Fuck you.
Dude, you're like a high school girl, like pissed off.
Okay, well, you know what? You can face me in a fucking boxing ring, and we'll see who the fucking high school girl is.
I don't fight women, bro. I don't fight women. Sorry.
Well, yeah, because you'd get your fucking ass kicked.
All right. You got it. Just real quick.
Okay.
Zen. I gotta get these other callers.
I asked you how you justify Thor as the precondition for.
How do you justify your God?
Just let me.
You're not going to answer because you just make up bullshit.
We can move on as soon as you let me speak.
I don't even understand that fucking question. It makes no fucking sense.
Let me speak, dude. Stop. Just stop. Okay, calm down. When I asked you that question, you answered it with the question because your paradigm.
He's wasting our time. Just go on to callers. He's not going to answer the fucking question I asked. He's just wasting our fucking time. Just go on to callers.
No.
Why is he even talking? Why is he even talking? He just said a bunch of gobbledygook. How do you justify your metaethical beliefs and da-da-da? What does that even fucking mean? It means nothing. And when I ask him to do the same thing, he can't. He can't do it because he just asked a bunch of gobbledygook to waste our fucking time.
Okay. And then you tried to spin the question back on me because you could not answer it, and the reason I'm not
You can't answer it. You can't answer it. You can't answer it. You asked a completely nonsensical question to make it seem as though I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. You don't know what you're fucking talking about. You just jibber jabber. No, yeah, Sky Santa. My Sky Santa exists. My Sky Santa's real. I know my Sky Santa's real because the Bible. See the Bible. How could my Sky Santa be fake if the Bible didn't exist?
You are literally a child.
No, you're a fucking child. You waste everybody's fucking time. You're a dishonest, lying piece of crap.
We gotta get to the callers. Enough.
Soy rage.
Toasted.
You can't talk about anything because you're gonna.
Toasted. Did you have a question for one of the debaters?
Yeah. First thing before I get to the serious one, vegan games. Will you actually fight Zen Shapiro or chicken out like you did with Isaac Butterfield?
I literally went on Isaac Butterfield's podcast and he said he never had any intention of fighting me. I wanted to set it up. He wouldn't message me. Tried emailing him, tried messaging him on Facebook. Not a fucking peep. And when I went on his podcast, he admitted it was just a joke, you dumbass.
Okay, fine, sure. Good. And one other thing before the whole God thing, you say God condones child rape, but in the Bible, if you rape a child, you go to hell. You get the death.
Okay, well the child still gets raped.
Right, but I mean.
So you're saying an all-loving. So wait, you're saying an all-loving, all-powerful God would allow a child to get raped and then give somebody an infinite, eternal punishment for a finite crime? Does that make any sense to you?
That's a straw man.
Does that make any sense to you?
That's a straw man.
That's not a straw man. That's not a straw man. That's not a straw man.
It is a straw man. Yes, it is.
That's not a straw man.
Yeah, it is.
He just said child rapists go to hell, so God would allow a child to get raped and then punish somebody infinitely for a finite crime.
That's not my worldview. That's a misrepresentation of how.
That's his worldview. He's the one who asked the question.
Okay, fair enough.
Unless I'm misinterpreting.
And for the next thing, guys, finally you mentioned the whole child being born without a brain, because that's actually a pro-life argument to people that say life doesn't begin until the brain comes. But the thing is, your case that you mentioned with it coming out without a brain, whatever you call it, it actually does have a brain. It just doesn't have a thinking cord. It has the brainstem.
No, hydranencephaly, they don't have a brain. They just have a brain stem, I believe.
Yeah, exactly. Saying
that's not a brain. That's a brain stem.
Right, exactly.
That's what he just said. He said it has a brain stem.
He said it has a brain stem. A brain and brain stem are two different things.
No, I said it has a
brain stem, dude.
Yeah, okay, well, it has a brain stem. Great. It's not sentient.
Which, in the sense, is more than many. Like a whale, if you ever saw a whale's skeleton, it basically is all brainstem, barely any brain.
Whales have massive brains. They're way larger than ours.
Yeah, it's basically a huge brainstem, though. It doesn't.
Okay, what does that matter?
So I'm saying that has more sentience in the sense.
No, it doesn't.
Than that whale.
No, where is your evidence that brainstems provide the ability to have sentience?
Well, why do you believe a whale?
No, where is the evidence that a brainstem is, on its own, is capable of providing sentience?
I mean, a human with a brainstem probably has more sentience than an ant or a fish. I mean, fishes are brain dead.
Why would you assume that? If it's only a brainstem, can you provide me any kind of source showing that brainstems themselves are able to provide sentience?
Well, first of all, yeah, of course, because like people have brain stems, they could still react to pain or something like that. Even if I think even the zygote.
No, they're reflexes.
Yeah, so that's not sentience.
Reflex is not the same as a conscious reaction.
I mean, what you consider because like in your logic, and many of pro-abortion people have this view. I think even maybe it's Peter Sanger. That even a baby, because babies
I don't agree with Peter Singer. Peter Singer's a fucking idiot. He's a wacko. He's been banned from universities because he thinks it's okay to murder children, like full-grown children.
Exactly, and also something. So, this is a quick question: people that are born without brains, do you believe we should be allowed to kill them then?
Yeah.
Really?
They're not sentient.
So I could just kill them if they could just put them on the...
Well, no, you can't just go and find a fucking non-sentient baby and kill it. Like, you have to consider the mother and the father and parents. If they wanted to, sure.
Why do they have the right to kill it?
Yeah.
Why?
Because it's not sentient.
Or why could they kill it and I can't kill it?
Okay, well, there's a reason you can't key somebody's car. It's theirs.
It's theirs? I didn't know my child is... But the child is not theirs, though. Why?
Yeah, it is. What? Because it's not sentient, it's not theirs? Okay, I guess all the non-sentient objects you own aren't yours because they're not sentient? Can I steal your car?
Wait, Vegan Gains, can humans be owned as property then?
Okay, when I say their child, do you think when I say their, and yes, they are children are your property, by the way.
Interesting.
So that doesn't mean they don't have rights, but yeah, they are functionally your property.
That would probably object to like biblical slavery or something.
Okay, dumbass. When I say your children, is that a misleading statement? When I say someone's child, is that a misleading statement?
You're an idiot.
Does that imply slavery? Does that imply slavery?
Yeah,
okay, wait. When you're talking to people in normal everyday life, do you say your child or their child, or do you use some other kind?
Vegan Gains is retarded. That's what I say.
Oh, okay, right. So more dishonest bullshit, dodging questions. You can't answer fucking anything, and you play stupid fucking word games, and you only make yourself look dumber. Games, huh? Good. Yeah.
Synth, can you hear us? Okay.
Make it quick with this retard. Holy shit. Okay.
Zen's already upset. Zen, I have a question for you. Yeah, I've got a question just for you, buddy. All right, you made this weird, like, is-odd argument about Vegan Gains ethics, but I don't understand how your position solves the is-odd gap either. Moral realists don't solve it.
I already said it. I already said how it does.
It doesn't.
How does it?
It doesn't. And the is and the ought are coming from the same source.
No, it doesn't. You're just assuming that, and that doesn't solve the is-odd gap. That doesn't solve the is-odd gap. You're just saying God does.
I'll wait till you're done.
Just before we move there, right? Zen, that's just going to be unrelated to the is-odd gap. Saying they come from the same source wouldn't mean that there's not a gap.
So the same God that makes everything that is the same God that prescribes.
Yeah, just because they come from the same source, it doesn't mean there isn't an is-odd gap.
I'll just wait till you're done. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I just said it. Just because it comes from the same source, it doesn't mean there isn't an is-odd gap. Yeah, even assuming what you're saying is true.
The God that makes everything that is the same God that prescribes everything we ought to do.
The Sky Santa. So there's your answer, Synth.
Right,
Sky Santa.
VG is right.
But in your guys' worldview, everything just is. You don't have it.
Yeah, right. How do you cross the is-odd gap? Sky Santa.
Wait, just a second.
Sure.
So Zen, sorry about that. Zen, the issue with the argument is it's not a problem for moral realism. The problem is one of deduction. You're not going to solve it because they come from the same source. Is statements will never be able to deduce into an ought statement unless you're defining ought as some kind of is statement. It's the only way you're going to do that.
No.
Sky Santa. Santa.
God is the transcendental mind that can bridge the gap between the physical, the metaphysical, and prescribe us oughts that are immaterial based on the material world, like what we ought to do in the material world. and that's how the is ought
Yeah,
gap
Sky
is solved.
Santa. There's
So
your
can you
there's
go
your
ahead
answer,
and-
Synth.
Can you go ahead and give me a syllogism then, right? Just a quick syllogism, maybe 2 premises, right? Where there's no ought claim and the conclusion contains an ought claim. Can you do that?
Say that again.
I want you to give me a syllogism where there are 2 premises that don't contain any ought claims, and then the conclusion contains an ought claim.
I'm not sure how you
Create a
I don't
syllogism
understand your
that
question.
That is
that
just
create
what the is-ought gap is.
literally that's what
the
the
is-ought gap.
create a syllogism with 2 premises that have is statements and a conclusion that has an ought statement that
I
successfully
reject
crosses
that
the
as
is
the
ought gap.
criteria, dude. I'm just saying that God.
Oh, okay. He
describes-
doesn't even. He
God-
literally doesn't
God
even know what you're
describes
saying.
the ought.
Is-ought
He's
gap.
too
He's
stupid to
not-
understand what.
saying that God
He's too stupid to
prescribes the
understand
ought.
any of
That's
this.
all I'm saying.
He doesn't even know what the is-ought gap is. Clearly,
No,
he's
no,
too
I
stupid to
do. I
understand.
do. And
No,
in
he
a
doesn't.
materialist worldview that you guys both
No,
hold
he
to,
doesn't.
I
Like
understand.
we're
I
literally
understand
asking you
that
to
there's a
provide a
problem
syllogism that
with
crosses the is-ought gap, and you can't.
because
And
all
you
have
can't
are
because you
is-
don't even know what it is.
All right, dude. All right, dude. Do you want
You're saying
answers
just-
to the questions, or you're just gonna?
You're not giving
swearing?
answers. You're just saying stupid fucking
You're
shit.
not
We're
letting
asking
me
you to
answer,
provide a
dude.
syllogism that crosses the
Dude,
is-ought
dude,
gap, and you can't even
dude,
do that
you
because
are-
you don't know what it
you-
is.
I don't think.
See
you
how
know
this
to
guy
win
wastes
all this debate.
everybody's
You start
time?
rage every
It
time
nothing
somebody
but
else talks.
stupid shit comes
Zen
out
is
of his
kinda
mouth.
Wasting time here. He just doesn't know.
I'm trying to answer.
He
the
doesn't
question
know.
that you
You
guys are
can't
both- you
answer
guys
it. We're
both-
literally asking you
for
a
once,
straightforward
I can't
question
believe I'm saying
to
this,
create
but
a
Synth is actually
syllogism
acting
that
in better
crosses
faith
the
than
is-ought gap, and you
Demon's
can't
point.
do it.
All right, dude.
See, when he's in a corner, all he'll
I'm not
do
in
is
a corner,
ramble.
I'm trying to
All he'll
answer
do
you,
is
dude.
complain about you interrupting him, even though you're demanding him
Because
to
you
answer
are
the
constantly
question,
interrupting,
and then
dude.
he'll just
Synth
gish
actually didn't
gallop
interrupt me,
around,
only you did.
try to distract from the actual conversation, make up stupid fucking
Just let me know when you're
excuses,
done.
or
Let me
just
know when you're
completely deny,
when you're
completely
done.
refuse to answer. Yeah, we're done. We've proven you're an idiot.
Are you? You haven't proven anything because you haven't even let me respond to anything. You
We
keep interrupting.
have, and you won't.
Okay, so all I'm simply saying is that the transcendental mind of God that bridges the gap between
Then
the metaphysical
create a
and-
syllogism that crosses the is-ought gap.
Could you
Prove
stop
it.
talking?
Prove that you can cross
Could
the
you-
is-ought gap.
Wait.
Prove
Can
it.
you tell me
Just
why
create
I
a syllogism.
Why
Just
ought
create
I-
a syllogism.
Why ought I create a syllogism for you?
Because you want to prove that you can cross the is-ought gap because Sky Wizard,
I don't
right?
care to prove it to you because you're just
This is
soy
so-
raging
Oh, okay.
about it.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Another stupid fucking excuse.
No, it's not an excuse.
There we go. Another
Wait,
stupid
wait,
excuse.
wait,
Another
wait,
stupid
what if I
excuse
just
because he's been
don't-
proven to be an idiot.
What if I just don't have a preference to give you a
There you go.
syllogism
There you
because
go.
are just gonna
Excuse,
soy rage
excuse,
about it?
excuse.
Not that-
Dodge, dodge, dodge. Excuse, dodge. Waste everybody's time.
It's that you aren't
Dodge,
letting me
waste everybody's
respond.
time.
So why
Yeah,
should I
refuse to
give you-
answer.
why should I give
Refuse
you
to
a
answer the
syllogism?
question.
I would
Dodge,
actually be
dodge.
willing
Yeah,
to-
keep blabbing, keep blabbing.
if
Keep
soy-
making
if
up
soy
excuses.
means-
Why don't you complain that I'm talking over you?
vegan
Go
soy
do that.
would
Complain
shut
that I'm
up, I would
talking over
actually
you.
be willing
Just
to
keep
engage
rambling.
in
Complain that
that.
I'm talking over
But
you.
vegan soy
Yeah, keep
cannot
going. Keep
control
going.
himself.
Complain that I'm talking over you. Don't answer
Can
any
we get a
questions.
mute on this-
Keep coming
on
up
this clown?
excuses.
Like I know I'm not the mod here, but
No,
I
no
would have
muting.
actually been willing to engage.
No muting.
since-
I'm sorry, Synth. Did you just have like a final wrap up that you wanted to say? I don't want to like kick you
Yeah.
off before time. But
I just wanted to clarify what the is-ought gap is, right? The whole point of the is-ought gap is just that from is statements you can't deduce an ought statement. It's a problem with deduction, right? Like the whole one of the like any moral realist, me included, is going to know this. It's just not the case that your position is it's not the case that your position, because you're a moral realist, solves the is-ought gap or bridges the is-ought gap. It doesn't do that. That's not the point. There's just not a problem. That's not even a point of the position. It's just like the claim that you can bridge the is-ought gap is just ridiculous.
all right,
Yeah, so I'm just
appreciate
simply-
the call in. By the way, Synth. Have a good night, man.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, and if I could just answer without being interrupted, I'm just simply saying that the Christian God, the Christian triune God as the transcendental, metaphysical, universal, provides ought statements to us, tells us how we ought act in the world, and
Has
is
nothing to do with
also
the is-ought gap.
and is also that which created everything that is.
Great. You're wasting
So-
everybody's
so
time.
the
Doesn't
is-
answer the question.
is
Doesn't
actually-
show that you can
is
cross the
itself
is-ought
is
gap.
justified
Blab,
by the
blab, blab, blab.
prescriber. So,
Blab,
so
blab,
it's not
blab.
about an is ought gap.
Blab,
You
blab,
have
blab.
the ought and the is. So
Irk.
soy
Irk.
rage.
Is
So
it, I don't know how to say that. Is it just Irk?
yeah, let's go with Urk. It's a Western saint. It was a convert of St. Patrick. I don't know how to say his name either, but
Okay,
anyways,
go ahead.
Yeah. So, well, my name's Eric, and when I was picking a patron saint, I didn't know if there was Western saints, and well, I knew there was, but I didn't know there was a Saint Eric. But anyways, I'm not quite as smart as these guys here, right? But so my best guess, real quick, I just want to start with this, is the sentence, right? So here's a premise: the judge is a liar. And I would say that implicit in that statement is an oughtness, because the word judge implies that a judge provides justice, which has to do with righteousness and truth and equity and all of these things. And if that judge is a liar, then there is a contradiction there, or a discongruency, and therefore implicit in that is an oughtness. So there's a premise that leads to an oughtness. I don't know if that answers the sense question.
Oh, okay, well, that's a premise. That's not a syllogism. That doesn't cross the is-ought gap.
Well, it does cross the is-ought gap, because saying the judge is a liar implies that there's an oughtness to what a judge should be.
No, it doesn't.
So a judge can be a liar?
Absolutely. Look at Brett Kavanaugh. What do you mean?
But ought a judge be a liar?
Well, again, that will come down to your personal preference, but that doesn't cross the is-ought gap.
He said, look at Brett Kavanaugh.
Yeah, he is a liar.
That's hilarious.
Well, he did lie during the whole weird investigation thing.
No, answer that question though. Ought a judge lie?
Well, in my personal opinion, no. They should be as truthful as possible. But again, that's just one premise. That's not a syllogism. You'd have to create a syllogism with a set of premises.
Within the definitions of the words.
No, it's not.
No,
it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not.
You
You'd have to create a separate premise that says a judge should not lie.
Well, no,
a judge should not lie.
No,
the judge is a liar.
No, the word judge literally means...
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. You're just presupposing that a judge shouldn't be a liar, and that's fine, but that's not part of the premise. You'd have to create a premise: the judge is a liar, the judge shouldn't lie, therefore he ought not to be a judge, but that doesn't cross the is-ought gap, because in one of the premises, you made an ought claim.
So are you a nihilist, vegan?
Yeah, I'm an existential nihilist.
Oh, okay. Well, then this entire debate's meaningless, because you have no standard of truth or objectivity.
Yeah, okay, Okay, you know what? I'm not a nihilist. I believe in Sky Santa. There. Oh, okay, I believe in truth and subjectivity now, just because I can invoke God? This guy's been lying constantly throughout this entire fucking debate.
Standard?
And
Wait,
you're
by what standard?
Oh, well, I don't know. Let's see. Dodging every fucking hard question. Dodging every hard question. Making up stupid fucking excuses and red herrings.
I don't want examples. I want
no.
Lying by what standard?
But this is my genuine question, because... and this is my question that I'm coming in with is, do you live this way, like vegan? And I'm not trying to be a dick, or I'm really curious, because...
I'm an existential nihilist, so I just make everybody makes up their own personal preferences and finds meaning in life in some way. You've just chosen to find that meaning in God, like a made-up fucking fantasy character. I can do the same thing. I can worship Odin and think following Odin's will is giving me a higher purpose in life. I can do that with any god. Any pantheon. It doesn't matter. I can do that with anything. You're not doing anything differently than I am. The only thing you're doing is invoking God on top of that.
Wait, do you make up standards of truth?
You make up standards of truth.
Answer the question.
You make up... Has God literally come down from the sky and talked to you directly? Please? So you make up your own truths.
Do you make up your own standards for truth?
I don't know what that means exactly. Can you explain?
So my question though, do you have family? When people are born around you, are you happy for them?
No, not necessarily.
Really? So do you have brothers or sisters? Do you have do you have?
I have a half brother and a half sister.
Gotcha. Okay. So I think that's honestly gives a lot of people insight, because I don't know how you can live that way. If you have someone that you love that's close to you that has a child, how could you not be happy?
I don't love my dad. I don't care about his kids. What are you talking about? I didn't really grow up with my dad. I don't really care much about him. I don't care about his side of the family. Why would you expect me to care?
Right, and I'm not. Again, I'm trying to give everyone, including myself, just insight, because this affects your beliefs.
Oh, I'm a terrible person. Look at my upbringing. He doesn't believe in magical Sky Santa. Oh, it all makes sense now.
No, I'm genuinely asking, because that sucks, dude.
No, it doesn't. I don't care.
No, I'm just saying. I'm not saying to be a jerk or to make you feel bad. I'm just saying, if you don't feel happy for children being born around you, or people getting married around you, or
why would I inherently be happy that children are being born? those children might be assholes. They might turn out to be assholes. They might have
Yeah, but
fucked
you don't
parents
judge
that are
somebody based
drug
on something they
addicts.
haven't
Why
done.
would I necessarily
Well, yeah, you're
inherently
just
be
a
happy if
pessimist.
children are born?
So practically speaking, who are you closest to? Like, who's a person?
My wife.
Oh, your wife. Oh, do you guys have children?
No, she had her uterus removed, so she can never have children, and I've gotten a vasectomy.
Okay, so
Of
your
course
wife.
you have.
So who's closest to your wife? Like, who's like her best friend?
Me.
Okay, well let's say someone she's really close to died. Would you just be like, fuck that person? There's no point in life anyways,
No.
or would you comfort her?
No, I'd comfort her.
But
How?
it doesn't matter. But it doesn't matter in the end.
Not objectively. Can you prove to me that objectively, mind independent of any mind, that matters? To me, it matters.
Okay. Yeah. No. At least you're being consistent with your nihilism. I mean, nothing matters. There's no meaning in life. Words have no meaning. There's no oughtness, and everything is just
look. You
meaningless.
develop your own meaning the way you want. You just invoke God to make it seem as though everything's more meaningful. It doesn't.
Okay. Thank you. That was my
Eric,
question.
I appreciate your call. Have a great night.
Thanks.
You exhibit signs of being a sociopath, bro.
I am.
Seriously. Or a psycho. I don't know.
No, I am.
Did you say you're a sociopath?
No, yeah. I at least have quite a few characteristics that would fall under the definition of antisocial personality disorder, particularly sociopathy. I was diagnosed by somebody who's actually a psychologist, but it wasn't in a professional setting. It was just a friend of mine.
Yeah, I would just say try not making judgments on other people's.
I can do whatever the fuck I want. You do it too. You do it too.
That's just your narcissism speaking.
No.
So try not.
I'm not a narcissist.
On other people's character.
No,
if you're
I can make whatever judgments I want.
Yeah, because
you're a lying, dishonest jackass. No. Prove to me that I'm a narcissist.
You're a nihilist and a sociopath.
Prove to me that I'm a narcissist.
You're a narcissist. It's rooted in your own.
Prove to me that I'm a narcissist. What about me is narcissistic?
All you care about is yourself, dude. All you care about is your own. Your own pleasure.
I literally just said I care about my wife. How the fuck does that make any sense?
How would you? Even,
You're literally making shit up and lying. See, you literally make shit up and lie. I literally just told you I care about my wife, and then you say I only care about myself. So you lied.
This is getting.
Can I get an admission that you lied?
I'll step back. I don't.
Well, hang on. This is actually getting more personal than it should be getting.
Yeah, I'm stepping
back. For a debate like this. Just so you guys know, that's outside the threshold of my comfort level. But I did, as you were saying that, there is one thing on antisocial behavior, vegan. Isn't narcissism a commonality with that?
Yeah, so there's narcissism, sociopathy, psychopathy. In the recent DSM-5, they got rid of narcissism because there's a lot of people who have narcissistic traits that it doesn't necessarily make sense to give a particular diagnosis. So I think psychopathy, sociopathy is still there, but they give individual diagnoses based on character traits when it comes to narcissistic what was previously referred to as narcissistic personality disorder. So a lot of psychopaths and sociopaths,
common,
right? So a lot of psychopaths and sociopaths are narcissists, but not every narcissist is a sociopath or psychopath. So now if you're going to get a diagnosis for antisocial personality disorder, what they'll do is they might give you a diagnosis of psychopathy, but on top of that, there will be another list of character traits like selfishness, self-grandiose ideas. They won't give you another separate diagnosis for narcissism just because there's so much variation.
I see.
Yeah.
Lemon, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Zen Shapiro, I want to wish you, especially Andrew, a blessed feast of St. Andrew on the new calendar. Blessed feast to you both. And my question is for vegan.
Hang on. Did you know that people keep on asking me if I'm going to take a saint's name, right? And I always say, yeah, I'm going to take St. Andrew just because, why confuse it, right? Anyway, go ahead, Lemon.
So I have a question for vegan. Wait, I can't. What is a person who is brain dead? Well, not brain dead. Let's just say they're in a coma. Are they a person?
Yeah.
Are they sentient?
Depends. If they have a certain type of brain damage, maybe. If they have a different type of brain damage, maybe not.
Let's just say that they're in a coma for medical reasons.
Like a medically induced coma?
Yeah. Are they sentient?
Yeah, they are.
All right. So let's say that it's a person who is dying and may or may not be brain dead. Why not kill them?
Because they might not have a preference and they might wake up again.
Might not have
Especially
a preference.
if it's they personally may have a preference where they would want to continue living, and especially considering it's a medically induced coma and they may wake up again, like a fairly good chance. Based on that, I'd say that would probably be wrong to kill them.
All right. And my second question is this: what about people who have autism? Should we kill them?
No.
What if a mother finds out the child has autism or will have autism? Should she kill that child?
No.
Then why kill children in the first place?
What?
It comes down
I don't see how this follows from anything.
Well, I think it's interesting. If you want to continue, go ahead. Sorry.
Like, are you asking me like pre-sentience if somehow they'd know if a child has autism?
Yes.
Well, I guess that'd be their preference.
All right. So in theory, that child before it's born is life unworthy of life. Lebensunwert des Lebens.
No.
Why?
If it is not sentient, I don't care about it. If it's after sentience, then yeah, I think it has moral value.
All right, that was an interesting.
Let me ask you this, vegan gains. So hypothetical, it's hopefully not too far fetched. Let's say you've got a 95-year-old person who has like some terminal illnesses, cancer, whatever, and they've been put into a coma by some whatever means, and they are suspected to wake up within let's say within 3 days. Let's say they're projected to wake up in 3 days, but then they'll die shortly after. And so we've got that person, and then we've got another scenario. We've got a fetus, which is like say 11 weeks and 6 days old, and it's projected to acquire sentience tomorrow. And then it would obviously develop. It's a normal pregnancy, develop and be healthy, whatnot. Which one, if we had to save one and kill one, which one would you prefer to save? The 95-year-old in a coma that might wake up and die shortly after, or the fetus that has not acquired sentience yet but will acquire it tomorrow?
Which would I prefer to die?
Yeah, like which one would you prefer to kill, and which one would you prefer to save?
Well,
if you had to
likely the 95-year-old, because the fetus would likely experience a lifetime of potential well-being. But with that said, I wouldn't think it would be immoral to abort the fetus if it wasn't sentient. But yeah, I'd prefer.
But isn't that it's just funny that in those two scenarios, you're gonna preserve the 95-year-old that's on its deathbed anyway, versus a healthy fetus that just hasn't acquired sentience yet by your definition.
Again, it's a preference that I'd have, kind of based on potential well-being. But if the mother decided to abort before it was sentient, I don't see.
There's a greater potential well-being for that fetus than there is for that.
Well, sure, but I don't see how these two things are interlinked in any way.
Well, I'm just exploring a hypothetical.
Like if this were a hypothetical where I could either force a woman to give birth when she doesn't want to, force her to just take that child to term rather than her abort it before being sentient, or I could allow that. If saving. Shit, how do I... Yeah, if these two things were linked, where I could either save the child but force the woman to give birth, but I would end up killing the guy, or letting the guy live and then letting the woman, abort the fetus, I'd rather have the option where the mother has agency to choose.
Yeah, I mean, I get it's just funny that in that hypothetical. But yeah, okay. You got anything else there, Lemon? Sorry.
Not that I know of. Thank you, everyone. It's been enlightening. Blessed feast to you all. Have a wonderful night. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that call in. And then last call in for the night before we get to super chats. Tristan, go ahead.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Awesome. Good to see you guys. Yeah. So I've got a question for Vegan Gains. You mentioned earlier you used the term meaningful life when talking about sentience. Am I correct in asserting that?
Yeah. I think I use that term, meaningful life.
Okay. Later, just a few minutes ago, you said that life has no inherent meaning. So I'm trying to just get
I said
a gauge
life
on
has
what
no
you
objective meaning.
Okay, so what is a meaningful life?
What, based on my worldview?
Oh, meaning is not objective?
No.
Okay, so
you'd have to
to
prove
you,
to me
what
that
do you mean by
meaning is
meaningful life,
objective.
and how do you determine that when determining whether it's okay to abort, to murder a baby?
Sure. I think there's a degree where someone has a substantive degree of sentience. That could be human or animal. If somebody is not sentient at all, I don't think that's meaningful life where, you should protect it or give it rights or anything. So like, say, a plant. There is probably some sentient beings that only have like a capacity to, say, suffer. They can't experience any well-being. In that case, I don't think that's a meaningful existence, and I'd be fine with killing it. You'd probably be doing it a favor since it can only experience suffering and no well-being. But if you're talking about a like fetus that is sentient and can experience well-being, I would consider that a meaningful life.
Okay. Last question. What is sentience? How do you define that, and how do you measure that
the ability to have a
objectively?
subjective experience.
Okay. How do you measure sentience objectively?
Well, again, you can make inferences, and depending on how much information you have, you may be able to make more and more inferences that can come to a more accurate conclusion.
Okay, so you can't measure. Can you measure it objectively?
Well, you can measure. You can measure things that would suggest sentience objectively, like a neuron, say. I'm sure neurons exist without the presence of a mind. So if there's neurons in a being, that would maybe suggest capacity for sentience. If it has a nervous system, a brain, those things can exist without the presence of a mind. Like that would suggest sentience. So like, again, it's a number of factors where you can make a more and more accurate inference.
Okay, so the definition you gave of sentience, Vegan Gains, the definition you gave of sentience was the ability to have a subjective experience, right?
Yeah.
What is a subjective experience?
Do you understand that you can't infinitely reduce things? Like, what's a water bottle?
I'm asking what is a subjective experience? I mean, you're arguing
it's an experience dependent on a mind.
And you think minds don't objectively exist, right?
Sorry.
Do minds objectively exist?
Sure. If there was a lack of any other minds, then a mind would exist.
So now you believe in a mind, which remember when I called in on the last
I'm sorry. Are you
excuse me.
suggesting?
Remember when I called in on the last debate?
Are you suggesting that a mind is?
Hold on.
Sorry, no. What you're suggesting is a mind is a requisite for existence itself. I don't believe. No, dude, I don't believe.
No, you may not.
Excuse me.
Okay, go ahead. Just waste your time. Go ahead.
Okay, remember when I called in on the last debate, and you said, I asked you.
Oh, you're primal edge
non-physical things exist.
Yeah, you're.
Do non-physical things exist? Do non-physical things exist?
Yeah, that was an equivocation. So
do non-physical things exist?
That was an equivocation, and I can explain. When you asked,
I'm
do
asking
non-physical
a simple question.
No.
Is that an answer?
No, you're not going to fucking railroad. No, you're not going to railroad me. You made an equivocation. Let me explain. So you can have something like a concept like right and wrong. You can have a concept like right and wrong, and you could maybe have the existence of like a metaphysical being like God. Is God a concept? You're just making an equivocation.
I asked you a question.
That's an equivocation. No, there's no way to answer. There's no way to answer that because you're not even explaining what you mean by existence. Are you talking about a metaphysical being like God that doesn't have any physical presence in the world but exists in some sort of weird metaphysical space? Are you talking about like an idea or concept? Okay,
how about this? How about let me frame it this way.
He's a fucking retarded precept Christian.
Vegan Gains.
Yeah, no.
Look,
I'm not.
I'm sorry.
Dude, I know what game you're
upset.
playing. I know what game you're playing, and you're not.
I know
you're doing the same shit Zen Shapiro.
This is a basic
You're doing the
question.
exact same shit that Zen
Vegan
Shapiro
games.
is doing.
La-
You're
last
asking
question.
a weird, vague question, and you're
No,
not
this is a
explaining what
very
you mean.
specific question,
No, it's
sir.
not. Okay, ask it.
This is a very specific question.
Ask it.
Do metaphysics objectively exist?
Metaphysics?
Does metaphysics objectively exist?
What are metaphysics?
Does metaphysics? You just use the term in the way that you just used it. Does metaphysics objectively
You're the one
exist?
who claimed God is a metaphysical being.
Do metaphysics? I didn't say that. What are you talking about? I asked you if
what are
non-physical things exist.
Explain what explain what metaphysics are.
It's a branch of philosophy.
Okay, explain what a metaphysical thing is.
I asked you if metaphysics exist.
Just kick him off.
so
He's
meta-
being a weasel.
All right. So, anyways, so you're gonna make
whatever. Primal
claims.
Edge Health.
You're
Go
gonna make
fucking
claims
go
about
fucking
things.
gaslight other people. I don't fucking care.
Gaslight.
Dude.
No, this is
Go
not gaslight.
gaslight.
So you're not
Go be
understanding.
manipulative. Go be stupid. You can't
These
even
are basic
clarify.
questions.
When I
We
ask
do
him
have
a
basic
clarifying
questions.
question,
Hang on, we
when
do
I
have
ask
to
him a
wrap
clarifying
up.
question, he
That's
can't even
true,
answer.
but-
Dude,
Yeah,
when I ask him a
you're
clarifying
asking-
question, he can't even answer. He's
if
wasting
I
our
can-
time.
You refuse to
No,
answer
no,
any
no,
of the
no,
questions.
no,
You
no.
get upset
I'm
and
asking you a
rage.
clarifying
Wait,
question and you won't
maybe
answer.
I can help.
I'm
Maybe I
asking
can
you a
help.
clarifying
Vegan,
question and you won't
vegan,
answer. Just kick him off.
Maybe I can help.
He's wasting our
Vegan
time.
clarifier.
He's wasting our
Vegan,
time.
hold on,
He won't
vegan,
answer
hold
my
on.
clarifying question.
Vegan, I will-
Well, what's
I
the
will-
I'm not sure
what's
what
the
you're so
clarifying?
upset. It's
What's
a
the
basic
clarifying
question.
He wants to know what metaphysics are, and it's just simply something.
It's a
Meta
branch of
means what's
philosophy.
beyond. It's just it's a branch of philosophy where you're going beyond the physical and exploring the immaterial world. Do you believe
You're dealing with things like being, knowing.
Do I
right?
believe
concepts
concepts
that
exist?
exist in the abstract, right?
Well, do I believe abstract concepts exist? Sure, but I know what you did last time. Objectively, no, it's mind dependent.
Yeah, so it's all.
But you can't define mind. But you
Yeah,
can't
I
define mind
just
either.
said I just said a mind is something. So I define sentience. Sentience is the ability to have a subjective experience. A mind is something that allows one to have a subjective experience.
All right,
Tristan, I appreciate the call in very much. And where are you at? Are you still over on Primal Health?
No, my YouTube channel is called Tristan Haggard. Ask Tristan Haggard.
Tristan
Yeah,
Haggard.
and if anybody wants to
Tristan,
see
if you want to
Vegan
have a
Gains-
debate, if you want to have a debate with me on my channel, I'd be more than happy to host you and make you look like an idiot again.
Oh, again, if anybody wants to
Remember
see what
the last
happened
debate?
the last
Remember
time
the last
Vegan
debate?
Gains and I debated, I suggest
You ran.
go over to my channel.
You literally
can see-
ran. You literally
The
ran.
fact, the fact,
I literally
the fact,
ran.
The fact, the fact.
All right, enough, guys. We gotta move
All right,
on. Thanks
hey
so much
guys,
for the
have a
call
great
in.
night. Andrew,
too.
thanks a lot for having me on. I appreciate
Of
you having
course.
my call. Zen, it's Vegan Gains. You guys have a great night. Bye, guys.
You too, man. Take care of yourself, Tristan.
One
Okay.
quick- can I ask one quick thing to Vegan?
Sure.
I wanted to ask this at some point. I just never saw a good opportunity to. When you say you value sentience as a vegan, you don't eat meat and whatnot. Okay, what do you think about eating eggs, like chicken eggs? And to be clear with this, like not
Yeah.
factory farming. Like if I just have a chicken coop in my backyard, I sustain these chickens and feed them, but I also collect their eggs and eat them. Is that a problem?
Yeah, so in a vacuum, it's not a problem. The issue is with selective breeding and exploitation. So in order to have those chickens, you need to selectively breed them. You need to
What if
get
I just
them from...
let them roam free and breed as they see fit and just collect their eggs?
Well, again, the way they got there in the first place was through selective breeding, and likely the male chicks were murdered. So the problem I have is everybody who's going to own...
They weren't.
Okay, sure. Like if these were wild chickens or something, and they just ended up going into your property, and then you took some of their eggs, I don't see an issue with that inherently.
Interesting. Vegans are okay with eating eggs then?
No,
Okay.
that's not what that means.
Okay, guys, we're going to move into the super chat portion of this. We really appreciate both of you coming on. It's been a spirited debate, to say the least. Let's go ahead and move to 2.2 acres and an otter. Says, for the Confuser Fund. I don't know what he means by that. For $11, appreciate that very much. $5, Awood91 says, question for Ben. I think he meant Zen. You assert abortion is murder. If we assume you want murderers stopped or punished, would you then be in favor of laws that force child rape victims under penalty of law to carry and give birth? it is either murder or it isn't.
Yeah, I wouldn't frame it that way. I don't like using the word force, but yeah, I'm consistent in my worldview that there's no exception for rape and abortion. That's still an innocent human person that didn't actually have anything to do with the rape itself. So we shouldn't kill it. And to be clear, like to make an analogy, and this is like knockout, is that when somebody commits a crime, like if your father committed a crime, like robbing a bank, for example, you're not going to go and punish the child of the father. Like if my father went and robbed a bank, I shouldn't go to jail for that. So if my father raped my mother, I shouldn't be killed for that either. So that's the same thing with rape and abortion, is that if father rapes the mother, we don't kill the offspring. We should punish the father. Absolutely. Don't kill the baby. Absolutely.
Could I ask you something? So there was a young girl that was raped. She was 12 years old, and her rapist impregnated her. You'd force her to keep the child and bring it to term?
Yeah. I don't use the word force, but force. I would not permit her. If I were the lawmaker, I would not permit her to murder her
even
child.
12-year-olds.
If she did, I would.
Even 12-year-olds.
Yes.
Okay.
If she were to murder her child, I would want her to be punished.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
I have a quick question I was thinking about as you guys were going back and forth. When we use the term force, because I did hear that a bunch. Force for abortion. It's you're forcing them to do a thing. Would it be? I mean, you're okay with like forcing kids to wear clothes in public, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and are you okay with forcing women who are fully adult women to wear clothes in public?
Yeah, like I'm fine with topless attire, but yeah, like bottoms, sure.
Yeah, why not the full Monty?
Why not a top?
No, because, just like why can't they do the full Monty, like just walk around naked?
Oh, there's a number of reasons. Things like hygiene, I think safety, like sexual assaults, various reasons like that.
So if a woman wanted to walk around naked, would you force her to wear clothes?
Well, yeah. If it was in a normal public space, like pants, sure.
Okay, gotcha. So,
yeah. But not tops. Like
yes.
Men can walk around without a shirt. I think women should be able to.
So, but in the commons, then it's not necessarily a bad thing that people get forced to do something that's against their will.
Well, I think there's a big difference between forcing somebody to wear pants and forcing a 12-year-old rape victim to keep her rape baby.
I agree. There's a huge difference as far as that goes. I'm just
talking it's fine to force people into doing certain things, but forcing a 12-year-old to keep a rape baby, that's
what about forcing a child to be murdered because their father raped their mother?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, bad. Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's fine. I think it's a greater.
To be murdered because
I think it's a greater rights violation to force a 12-year-old rape victim to keep her rape baby.
No, you don't. You actually don't think that.
I do
because killing the child ends its experience and its potential for future experience.
That's fine.
Where the mother can at some point potentially and probably will. I mean, it's not going to be easy by any means, but probably will recover both. Physically and mentally, at least to the greatest extent that is allowable. Whereas there is no potential or possibility for recovery to being killed. So the murder of the child is objectively worse than the forcing
that's just your preference.
The mother to
no, it's not objective. No, it's not objective. No, if you're going to use use a word like objective, prove with mind-dependent reasoning. No, prove with mind-dependent reasoning that it's worse.
Yeah, I've already illustrated.
Oh, Magic Sky Wizard. Yeah, right. Sky Santa. Sky Santa. Okay, Sky Santa.
Your worldview.
My worldview? No. You don't understand my worldview. That was not an internal critique. That was not an internal critique. That was not an internal critique. You used the word objective. You used the fucking word objective, so that couldn't be an internal critique because you know I'm a fucking nihilist. You're lying again. You are literally lying again. You know I'm a nihilist. You know that I don't believe in objective moral views, and you literally just claim you are making an internal critique with my worldview. That is impossible. You used the word objective. There you go fucking lying again. You better hope that your God doesn't exist because he'd send you to hell for lying so much.
Like a soy sperm.
There you go. There you go.
Okay,
And he's surprised that I react this way. You are a fucking annoying asshole lying child.
Don't
there we go. We're done. We're done. We've proven he's a liar. We've proven he's lying again. We've proven he is lying and making shit up again.
Okay, are you done soy-spurging? Okay. So what I'm simply saying is do from an internal critique.
That wasn't an internal critique. No. That wasn't an internal critique.
Okay,
you said the word objective. You said the word objective. That was a critique from your worldview. It could not possibly be from my worldview because you used the term objective, which doesn't exist in my internal worldview.
You need a baby bottle?
No, you need a fucking dictionary. I think you need to learn the word fucking objective, subjective, and internal critique. You need a fucking dictionary.
This is my kid's pacifier.
Okay, you keep lying even after I pointed out your flaw in your lie, and you keep fucking lying.
Here, I got a binky for you.
Great. Just go on. He's gonna keep lying. He's gonna keep lying. He's gonna keep lying. That was not an internal critique. Admit that was a critique from your perspective. That was not an internal critique.
Let him finish.
No, that wasn't an internal critique. He has to admit that was not an internal critique.
You can respond to it, and I promise
he was not an internal critique,
regardless of what he says.
Okay, fine. As long as I can respond to it, that's fine.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just let me finish it.
Go ahead.
Let me finish it, and then you can respond. I promise you get to respond. But I'm just saying, from your perspective, and that's why I'm saying internal critique. From your perspective, you value the sentient experience above all else as the greatest rights violation when you take somebody's sentient experience from them. So when you kill somebody, you end their sentient experience permanently. There's no possibility for a recovery or to gain sentient experience back. I'm granting you that. I'm granting you what sentience is. And that's what happens when you kill somebody. Now, when somebody is raped and has to go through the trauma and has to carry a pregnancy even as a result, don't interrupt. I'm almost done. Don't interrupt. They have to go through a traumatic experience, and that's awful. And the pregnancy is going to be really hard. I agree. But it's something that can be recovered, something that can be repaired.
You already said this. Why the fuck are you repeating yourself?
Hang on. Albeit difficult.
There he goes, wasting everybody's time. You've already said this.
Difficult. Dude, just stop. I'll let you respond. Albeit difficult, I understand that, but certainly possible to recover from, whereas killing is not. So the killing is the greater rights violation than the forcing to carry the child. So...
so that wasn't an internal critique. He used the word objective to describe why that is morally wrong. Again, in my worldview, there is no such thing as objective morality. Everything is subjective. And secondly, he didn't even represent my worldview properly. I see forcing a 12-year-old girl who's a rape victim to keep her rape baby as a greater rights violation than killing a sentient fetus. The degree to which the fetus is sentient is nowhere close to the degree to which a 12-year-old could suffer being forced to take a pregnancy to term. So, no, I don't think it's nearly a substantive enough amount of sentience to... I don't think it's anywhere near...
I won't respond to this. I just want to know your answer. If there's, say, like a 16-year-old that is at home alone, or no, let's just say it's a young adult that has their own place, their own apartment, and... somebody else has a baby, they don't want it, and they drop it off at her doorstep, and she has nowhere to take it. She doesn't really know what to do with it. Can she kill that, or would she be obligated to take it somewhere and preserve it, like a newborn baby that has less of a sentient experience?
I don't think she'd have an obligation to help. She'd just have an obligation not to harm.
But by leaving it there, it would be harming it.
Well, no, it wouldn't be harming it. You're not intervening. You're doing nothing.
Yeah, but it's sitting on your doorstep.
Well, sure, I guess the morally good thing to do would be to call the police or something and have it sent to, like, I don't know,
so
adoption
she would
center.
have an obligation to preserve it, even though
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I didn't say she'd have an obligation. I'd say that it would be a morally good thing to do.
Would you consider a woman who did that, though? Because I'm thinking this through in my head.
Yeah, she'd be a piece of shit.
You wouldn't like her, right?
No.
Okay. So for $5, Runmouth says, yelling from the throat is soft compared to speaking from the diaphragm. That being said, how has veganism affected your voice, Vegan Gains? Obviously, you don't have to respond to that unless you want to yell.
Poorly.
Yeah, it didn't change my voice. My voice has deepened as my neck has gotten larger.
$15 from Maurice. He says to Zen, congratulations on the kiddo. $15 from Sterling Fuentes. Your favorite kind of super chat, Andrew? Almost. Yeah, almost. All right. $20 from Face Palmer. He says, no message. There's no message entered. Now that is my favorite kind of super chat, the kind that says absolutely nothing. So I'm going to move through these guys so that we can get you out of here by that 3-hour mark. 2.2 acres and a bear for $2 says they always hold the fringe cases and exceptions.
True.
System
never
blower
just justify it.
Yeah, System Blower sends in a $2 super chat. Is eating an aborted fetus vegan? The fuck? That's a fuck. What the fuck question is that?
Yeah, that is it. Wait, yeah.
Supposing
if I abort a fetus, or if somebody aborts a fetus prior to sentience being achieved and they ate it, would you be okay with that? Or is there anything wrong with that?
I don't
using
see
it,
wrong with that.
sucking the adrenochrome for like skin cream or whatever, like.
Yeah,
okay
I don't see anything wrong with that. There are people,
Yep.
by the way, who do eat the afterbirth. That is a common practice in some countries. Well, it's gross.
Oh yeah, I've actually heard about that. The placenta eating or whatever.
Yeah.
System Blower sends in $2 and says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I already read that." System Blower sends in another $2 and says, "Just soy, just one word." Borp sends in a $2 super chat. Doesn't gear usually lower men's voice? What the fuck is gear?
I'm not on. He's talking about steroids. I'm not on steroids.
Gotcha. Borp sends in another $2 and says VG needs some weed. I don't know if you smoke weed or not, but
I used to, but I don't anymore.
Okay, miles per hour 1876 says this is sad. We should pray for this guy. I have no idea who he's talking about.
He's talking about vegan gains, and I agree we should.
King Cash YouTube sends in $2 and says this is what happens when you go vegan. Thomas Aesthetics sends in $2 and says VG doesn't say child rape for 1 second challenge. There was a lot of talk about that, I must admit. Danny Walsh sends in a $5 super chat. Here's a penny for every time VG has soy raged. Okay.
You're gonna be a rich man.
Redfish Bear sends in a $9.99 super chat. Says nothing. Appreciate that. PM Oros sends in a $10 super chat. In your worldview, vegan gains is the highest principle hedonism, life with the most pleasure?
No, I don't think so. I'd say life without violating others' rights is probably more important.
But not violating their rights would maximize their pleasure, right?
No. Not the subject's pleasure, depending on what subject you're talking about.
Danny Walsh sends in a $5 super chat and says, we do things a little different here at the Crucible. Impromptu boxing match. Let's get it on, I guess. So that happened. Eric D sends in a $5 super chat asking Vegan Gains if he would kill a person in a coma was genuinely a great angle. How could Zen have known VG put his grandfather to death, as he put it? I think that's interesting. By the way, if you want to take a second and correct that, you didn't mean you put him to death. That was like
it was a mercy
phrase,
killing,
right? Okay.
No, he was.
Not, you mean like you pulled the plug, or what do you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because when the inference of like if somebody says we put somebody to death, that's not generally used in
I see it as the same thing.
Okay. Danny Walsh sends in $2 super chat and says on a scale of 1 to 10, how mad is Vegan Gains at his dad?
Not particularly mad. It's just maybe a little more disappointed.
Okay. 2.2 acres and a bear sends in a $2 super chat and says on his period. Yikes. Spartan up north sends in $4, says historical Jesus is fact. There are hostile sources and many archaeological sites that prove biblical accounts. Read history and drop the soy. Did you want to respond to that?
Yeah, there's no historical evidence for Jesus. Jesus is a composite character. There's nobody from that time period with that name, and a lot of the dates in the Bible are wrong. So
that's just so
no,
absurdly
there isn't.
false.
He's a composite character. You will not find anybody from that time period who was named Jesus of Nazareth. No, he's a composite character.
How do you know
because there's no archaeological evidence whatsoever. None whatsoever.
Whoa. Is there archaeological evidence for George Washington?
Yeah, there is.
There is?
Well, historical evidence. I don't know if you'd call it archaeological.
Oh, you mean like people's writings? You mean like people talked about him and wrote about him?
Well, not only did people talk about him, but there's like literally a grave. You can find the person.
Do you know that there's a fucking tomb? Where
No, there isn't.
Have you ever heard of the Church of Holy Wisdom in Jerusalem? That's literally the tomb where Jesus.
Yeah.
Of Jesus' burial. There's a giant fucking building on his
tomb. So you're saying there's a place where Jesus was buried, but apparently he floated up to heaven. So how could there be a body?
Well, there's not.
Okay, wait. Where's the body of George Washington?
I don't know. You'd have to look that up.
Yeah. So, but you believe he existed, right? Have you seen his body?
Yeah. There's a big difference between confirming George Washington existing than confirming somebody who existed 2,000 years ago who nobody wrote about at the time, and the only mention of him was through secondhand or third-hand sources, hundreds of years after the fact.
This guy says that it's in Jerusalem. That's what I said. The tomb is in Jerusalem.
Yeah, great. But, show me his body. Where's the evidence that this is Jesus?
Yeah, dude. I could point to any historical. It didn't have to be George Washington. You just point to any historical figure, and I guess the criteria
there are historical
their body. But
again, there are historical figures where there is sometimes more and sometimes less confirmation that they exist.
Yeah, but your confirmation is always just going to be based on people's writings and historical evidence. Not necessarily.
There can be physical evidence. Again, I'm sure George Washington has a burial place. What is it?
But how do you know that he's actually in there? And somebody didn't make it
Pluto's mentor. He might not have actually existed. There's not much evidence for his existence. Again, with
I really want to
take
an angle here, but it's not TOS friendly.
Again, with historical figures,
the keyword is Cookie Monster. That's it. Right.
Again, with historical figures, you can confirm there's more or less information on their existence, and with Jesus, there's none.
Okay.
This is from Danny Walsh. She sends in $2, and he says, "There it is. VG is very mad at his dad." I think he sent that into the 34 minutes into the debate, so maybe that's what he's talking about. Sorry.
Yeah, maybe.
Martino Berto sent in a $2 super chat and says, "VG is a denialist, not a nihilist." Adam W sends in a $5 super chat and says, "I'd like Zen to prove free will exists. If I cannot choose to change my preferences, how can I truly have free will?"
What do you mean can't choose to change your preference? You can choose to change your preferences.
So if you're gay and you have a preference for having sex with men,
you can resist that. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you can resist having sex with men, but your preference is to have sex with men. You're saying you can change your preference to have sex with men?
Yeah, you can. I mean, it's not like you can just snap your fingers and change your preferences like in the click of a button or something. It's going to be a process a lot of times.
So why is there absolutely no evidence in favor of conversion therapy? And every psychologist on the planet now, including in the DSM-5, says
I didn't say that. Wait. Do you mean like the what's it called? The shock therapy? I don't really know.
No. He's talking about Christian conversion therapy for homosexuals.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, you could point to examples of people that are formerly homosexual that became.
Can't.
Oh, you can't?
No, you can't.
You can't. There's not a single example ever.
No, there's not a single example. Every single one of these people. Name
two that I'm familiar with. I mean,
okay, there's a difference.
Take them at their word, but one is Milo Yiannopoulos. Ex-gay, sodomy free.
He admits he's gay. He admits he's gay. He admits he has a preference to have sex with women. He just chooses not to.
Excuse me. Ex-gay, sodomy free, born again Christian. And there's also a guy, I don't know if he's popular or whatnot, but his name is Joseph Sciambria. I only know him on Twitter, but he's an ex-Roman Catholic that was molested as a child. He says he was gay because of that, but then ultimately was converted out of it through his faith.
Yeah, again, Milo Milo openly admits that he's gay. He just chooses not to live a gay lifestyle, so that's not even a good example. And again, why is every psychology on the planet?
So.
Why? Well, no, gay is a preference.
So he formerly
has a sexual preference
to engage in sodomy. He no longer does.
He still has that. He still has sexual preference.
Everybody has urges and temptations, but
so you admit, this is literally he literally admits it now.
Dude, listen, dude.
We're done. You literally admitted conversion therapy doesn't work.
You can tailor your lifestyle and your decisions.
Yeah, you can, and you literally just contradicted yourself. So we're done.
Dude, can you let me finish a sentence?
You can finish. We're done. You've contradicted yourself.
Then you stop talking. I will continue talking.
Yeah, cool. Blab. Waste your time.
Because I'm not done. You might be.
Oh, there we go. Complain about me saying something. Waste our time more.
Yeah, because you can't shut the fuck up.
There we go. He's doing it more.
Just listen, dude. you obviously we have urges and things that we have to fight against, temptations and whatnot. But you can change your lifestyle, you can change your life decisions, your diet, whatever it may be, to help you curb those temptations and eventually not even have those preferences anymore. So preferences are not something just absolute. Urges and temptations, they're always going to be there, but you can resist them. Absolutely. And the argument for free will, I don't know if I'm the best at making it, because like there are arguments against it, but I'm not the guy for that. So I would let somebody else do that.
RDC sent in a $10 super chat. It says nothing. Appreciate that. Adam W asks, VG, how long would Zen last in the ring?
Not more than a round. I'd smash his face in. His brains would be fucking scrambled.
Well, I don't fight women, so.
Well, no, you don't fight people who are bigger, stronger, smarter than you who could kick your fucking ass. That's what you don't
there
fight.
There are no women that are that, so.
Yeah. Let's see. Who has more muscles? Let's take a look. Okay? Who has more muscles? Who has more muscles here? Huh? Who has more muscle?
I don't have to.
Show us your bicep. Who has more muscle? You don't fight people who are bigger and stronger than you and can kick your fucking ass. You don't fight people who are bigger and stronger than you who can kick your ass.
King Cash YouTube sent in a $5 super chat and says, how can you be a nihilist if you value the life of animals, vegan?
Again, nihilism doesn't mean you don't personally have any values. It's just a recognition that there's no objective value. So you can make up your own personal values, but at the end of the day, they're your own subjective preferences and values.
Godzilla sent in a $3.76 super chat and says, absolutely nothing, which defeated the whole purpose, you fuck. Shield Lab sent in a $10 super chat and said, this is for Zen's baby, doing God's work. Keep having kids and defending the values of human life. We appreciate it. Juke sent in a $10 super chat and said, Zen's Kiddo Fund. Bane Bear sent in a $2 super chat and said, I can hear my stomach making poop. I don't know what the fuck. Maurice Smithville sent in a $2 super chat and said, did you get my dono? Yes, I got your dono. I read a bunch of donos off dono chat. Maybe you guys just weren't paying attention. I don't know. Bane Bear sent in a $5 super chat. VG, having a vasectomy ups your chances of getting prostate cancer by 50%. Andrew might still be smoking after you're gone. Look into it.
So it doesn't increase risk of prostate cancer. There is an association between men who've gotten vasectomies and higher testosterone and higher DHT levels. That is just cross-sectional data. It's an ecological association. Chances are people like men who have more testosterone, who are more interested in having sex without pregnancy, just have higher testosterone levels. It doesn't mean they have higher risk of prostate cancer as a result of getting a vasectomy. There's no such research showing direct evidence that men who get vasectomies have higher risk of cancer. It's just assumed that maybe because they have higher testosterone and DHT levels, which is an agonist for prostate cancer, it might increase risk.
So wait, how can you say you're a nihilist when you care so much about your manhood being snatched from you before your eyes live on the Crucible? You felt the need to flex. Oh, let's see who's bigger.
You said you're weaker than me, and I'm a woman, so you should be bigger and stronger, right? He's not going to show his bicep. He's not going to show his muscles because you're weak. You don't fucking work out. You're a little fucking bitch. You're a little fucking pussy. Yeah, you're a man when you have no fucking muscle mass. You're a man when you're fucking weak as shit, and I could kick your ass. Right? You're a man? Would you be a man when I bend you over and fuck you until you love me? Would you be a man if I bent you over and fucked you until you loved me? Huh? Would you be a man then?
Such projection, bro. You need to forgive your father.
Christopher Hatch sent in a $2 super chat. Says, how tall is Zen compared to Richard?
I'm 6'3".
I'm like 5'8".
Yeah, and I'm 270 pounds.
Okay, you're like mostly like
really. You're 270 pounds.
Yeah, I'm 270, 6'3", 270.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to keep up with me. Your cardio would
no, I have very good cardio actually, because I work out unlike you, and I don't even need good cardio. I could hit you once in the face and you'd be crippled.
You'd miss.
You'd whine like a little fucking bitch. No, you'd whine like a little bitch after I hit you once.
Hurt, bro, I can tell.
Okay, good. Then we should set up that boxing match and you can prove it.
No, dude, it's not going to solve your manhood. You have the little man syndrome. I don't think a fight would even...
Sure. Right. That's why you dodge a fight. That's why you won't show us how much bigger and stronger you are than me. I
think you need to do some introspection and seek some humility.
Okay. Adam W sends in a $2 super chat and says, Zen, if I hate cheese, I can't will that away.
I mean, I think you theoretically could. I don't know.
But I think people. I think people do.
Yeah, I mean, there's I used to not like a lot of it. I used to not like onions, and now I eat onions. I don't know.
Yeah,
is what it is.
I don't know either.
I think his point was there are some preferences that are immutable. In a lot of cases, food preferences are changeable.
Okay, $4 from Shandul. He says, vegan gains, if everything is relative, on what basis is your view correct or good? Even if it is, does this mean it's objective? And if it isn't the debate over?
No, so we can argue about morality just because I have a view that morality is subjective. That doesn't mean we don't agree on some base fundamental axiomatic principles. Ultimately, the idea of morality, it's a list of pro-social behaviors. So there are going to be people who share a greater degree of preferences with me. And again, we can discuss this and see how many people prefer the outcomes to, the set of preferences that I have.
Gotcha. For $4, Casey Wills says, vegan gains, please stop debating these retard presuppositionalists. They're giving me brain cancer. I think this moron is part of the same circle jerk made from Jim Bob is.
Yeah, they're the only ones who will debate me. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, we get those all the time for different things too. Sometimes
Jim Bob didn't make you soy rage so bad.
Well, a lot of times it goes the other way, where they're like, "Stop debating the retarded vegan. Stop debating." It's like people like to debate these issues. I'm sorry, they just do, and they like to do it with lots.
And I think it's important to note here, vegan, that we the Christian presuppositionalists, as much as you may hate us, we are absolutely the most formidable opponents against the vegans. I don't believe. I will even grant you this. Every vegan debate that I've seen where you guys are going up against secularists, even your debate with Destiny, I think logically, from a logical perspective, I don't think Destiny actually made a good argument against you. A lot of these materialists and people on the left that you guys debate on the name the trait stuff, I think you guys do win. I think you do, because they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And I think Christian presuppositionalism, our paradigm is the only true
it's very easy to say you're right no matter what when you can say
I mean, like I said, you don't have to like it, but
you're right, because Sky Santa. That's why people call you retarded.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for the super chats. We appreciate them so much. I don't think I missed any. Vegan Gains, you want to shout yourself out one more time before you go? And by the way, we appreciate you coming back on the Crucible.
Yeah, sure. I'd love to come back if you have any other debates.
Of course.
I'd be willing to come back. So you can find me on YouTube, Vegan Gains, and of course I have OnlyFans. I don't know how many gay dudes or women are in your audience who are into that sort of thing, but whatever.
Yeah, I have no idea, but you're hardly the only one who's ever shouted out their OnlyFans on the channel. It's totally up to the preference of the person coming on. Zen Shapiro, go ahead.
Yeah, Zen Shapiro, the new co-host of the Crucible, and I broke my position in pretty well tonight, hopefully. But I'll be around more, doing more moderation for debates and just more streams on here in general. So you'll be seeing even more of me than you already did as the in-house right-wing debater. You can also find me on Twitter, and I have my own YouTube channel that I don't really post to, but you can look me up, Zen Shapiro. So this was fun. I really did enjoy it, and Vegan Gains, it gets heated, like I said. I really hope there's no bad blood going forward. I do try to remain civil, and if I'm being quite honest with you, like man to man, I don't think it's worth fighting somebody over a disagreement or a debate, even though it did get heated. But I will apologize if I ever got too personal with you. I don't want to step out of line and make you actually hate me as a person, because I don't hate you. So that's all I got. Thank you for having me on.
All right, thanks guys. Have a great night, each of you.